Boop, 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 boop. Here we are, guys. We did it. Check out what I've got. Check out what I've got. Who's this? Who's this? Oh, it's my little baby Milo. It's my little baby Milo. Milo's here today to tell you all communism's great. Isn't communism great? What do you think, Milo? What do you think about communism? Do you think communism is good? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I think communism's the best. Yes, you do. Ah, my little guy. Okay. Barnabas, how you doing? Anime, how you doing? Good to see you today. Guys, I'm sick. Like, there's no other ways to describe it. It's not. I'm not like coughing or like nothing's leaking, right? I'm not like, but I definitely feel like the sweatiness. I just feel tired, just feel tired. And of course, like, I think about, like, I can't afford to be sick, I can't afford to be sick. I simply can't afford to call in sick tomorrow, so I got to do everything I can to take care of myself, which probably means going to bed like super early tonight. Yeehaw. I love that emoji, Oddity. That's a beautiful emoji. Eric, good to see you, bud. I don't have COVID. No, I did the test. I'm fine. And I got it from my brother, for sure, who, he doesn't have COVID either. John, have you seen A Bug's Life? I have. A Bug's Life. Crucial viewing. A Bug's Life. Tells an absolutely brilliant story about how the proletariat rises up against an illegitimate ruling class. Right? A group of ants are being oppressed by a group of crickets. Has some of the most clearly articulated pro-communist language in any film you've ever watched. Right? There are speeches given by the crickets, especially the leader of the crickets, that show very clearly the ruling class is well aware of what their weakness is, and the weakness is the rising up of the proletariat against them, which is exactly what we need to do. I've been having more and more conversations recently with NDPers. These guys are clueless. We should abandon them wholesale. These guys legitimately believe that, like, patting themselves on the back by getting a promise for dental care from known liars who don't deliver on their promises is a victory. Like, that's literally where we're at with these guys. Like, abandon the NDP, vote literally anybody else. Literally anybody else. You are voting for a right-wing neoliberal party if you're voting NDP, and they're overt about it. They're literally just like, yeah, we did it. We got a promise from liars that something's gonna happen, and what's gonna happen? The conservatives are going to get in, like they do, and they're just going to eliminate all of that, which the liberals know because they're allies with the conservatives, right? That's the whole plan. Calling in sick, what's that? I know, right, Grinning? I know the situation you're in, bud. Yeah, I'm well aware. Oh, God. Don't you love that the capitalist system hates sick people and forces people to go to work when they are sick? Yeah, thereby spreading around more disease and getting more people sick, right? In the most ass-backwards way to design a society ever. And, like, everybody's just running around doing fucking nothing, right? Like, we're just running around doing nothing. Having COVID is pretty lame. Had it recently. Didn't test positive on the day. I felt the worst, though. How interesting. That's weird, dude. That's weird. So, I'm saying all of this to tell you guys, today's going to be a weird one. You can see I got a million little tabs open. We're going to be up and down and all over the place today. I don't know if I'm going to, like, read anything aloud. We'll see how I feel as the day goes on, but, like, I do know this. If you are in the city of Toronto, we are blocking down Bloor on August 1st. Isabella and I have the plan to block down, let me get the exact information. She just sent it to me. Bloor and Bedford Road at 4 p.m., we are blocking down the street. Let me just make sure that time. Oh my God, I'm the most organized person in the world. The most organized person in the world. I believe it was 4 p.m.
Yep, 4 p.m. So 4 p.m. August 1st, we're blocking down Bloor and Bedford. I'm also gonna, there's a trans march. I'm gonna get all this up on the Discord too. I'm so super organized, guys. Trans march on the 24th, which is at 7 p.m. And then on the 26th, there's the Pride March, which is going to be at 2 p.m. So again, I'm going to put that all up on the Discord, get it all organized, and see if we can't get some of our Socialist Action friends in on it, see if we can't get some communists there. We'll see what we can achieve and what we can manage and what we can do. Slow and steady, man. We gotta organize and get pulled together and do these sorts of things. It's tough though. We're living in Doug Ford's Ontario, right? Soon it's going to be Pierre Poilievre's Canada and Donald Trump's America, right? Hopefully some of these NDPers and liberals will start to realize that their incremental liberal reformism is dumb and it's not working and it's never going to work. And hopefully more and more events will begin to radicalize these people towards the left, because right now it's kind of embarrassing. Talking to NDPers is just an exercise in embarrassment, just like cringing dumbness. Like, we did it, guys. We got basically nothing, and we're propping up the liberal establishment for it. Yeah. Okay. I'm absolutely terrified of the 2024 election here in the U.S. I can't imagine anything good coming out of it, but I imagine a whole lot of bad. Yep. That's how it is, bud. That's how it is. I mean, I'm more or less of the opinion that it is a good thing that the quote-unquote left in Canada and America are getting abandoned. Yeah. Because you got to get rid, like, we've got to face the real evil, right? And those who are most enthralled to the real evil are the conservatives and the Republicans, right? But we've got to purge from our ranks entirely the bullshitters, the liberals and the Democrats, right? That the liberals and the Democrats are obviously working on behalf of the same people that the Republicans and the conservatives are. So we need to purge ourselves of them. They're not going to help us. They're never going to help us, right? They're never going to help us. And as long as we keep fooling ourselves into believing that they are going to help us, then we're never actually going to face the final boss, right? We're never actually going to purge our ranks of these people. We're never actually going to face down the threat, which is capitalism itself. It's going to be a dark time. There's just no other way to describe it. It is going to be a dark time, right? Like, we are going to be, like, they're already overturning Roe v. Wade. They're already reinstituting Jim Crow laws. It's already happening. And that's happening while the Republicans don't even have any power. Like, think about how fucking crazy that is. The Republicans don't have the House. They don't have the Senate. They don't have the presidency. And they're still managing all of this damage, and they're still managing this stuff, and it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse. For sure. That's what we're here for. We are a solidarity group to document the decline of the capitalist system. Yeah. The decline needs to run its course. I remember you said it yourself. That's how our cause can finally galvanize people en masse. Yep. That our goal is not actually to convince anyone of anything, although we should. We should still reach out, and we should still try to convince people. We should do these things. But nothing is going to be more convincing than the system of capital itself. That our goal should be to reach out to people, let people know we exist, let people know that we're here, so that as the system of capital begins to abandon them, they know where to turn, and they know where to go. And now we're looking at, like, an NDP. Like, I look at how weak the NDP are now, and I just think to myself, like, if we just start swinging over to the communists and just abandon these NDP losers, right, we can start building an actual opposition to this capitalist system in a serious way. But As long as we keep fooling ourselves into believing that there's something to be done in the NDP, that they're actually going to swing to the left, or they're actually going to do, like, none of that's going to happen. Like, none of that's going to happen. That if you want to be involved in electoral politics, the only way to do that is by openly declaring that the system of capital is a failure. And until the NDP start talking that way, we don't need to actually bother with them. There are no commies that you have found yet, generation. That's the most important thing to remember, right? And I say it over and over again. Because we're so widely spread out, that's the weakness of this, right? Of this YouTube channel, of what we're doing. That is the weakness of it. And it's okay to say that. It's okay to acknowledge where the weakness is. But, so what that means, though, is it means that if you're convinced there's no commies where you are, then you are the center of it, right? If you are coming here and investigating communism, and you're looking around and you're not seeing any groups where you are, that means that you are the center of it. That it's up to you to make the flyer, it's up to you to set the date, it's up to you, even if it's just a reading group. Even if it's just a reading group. You can do it, you should do it, and I think and you'll be surprised what happens, I think. And then, of course, when you try and you fail, you come here and you talk about it to me. And we cry together about it. And we give each other advice or not even advice, just we stand in solidarity with one another. Mystic Werewolf, how you doing, bud? How goes the journey, bud? Good to see you. Good to see you. Good opportunity for me to say like, share, subscribe, guys. If you've got $1 jangling around in that pocket, maybe think about donating it my way. Every little bit helps. Every little bit helps. If I'm fiscally liberal, but socially conservative, what am I? Probably confused. Probably confused. Like, fiscally liberal would be like, you like spending money on social services, and you're fine with spending money, like government spending money, but you only want it to go to white people? Is that kind of it? I think confused is the answer that I would give. With all the love in my heart. When I say decline, I'm genuinely hoping the Western world falls like Rome and destabilizing and balkanizing. You cool with that? It has nothing to do with what I'm cool with. It does seem like that's the inevitable outcome, though. I don't know how America... I don't know how America makes it out of this as a unified, federated body. I just think it's the most likely outcome, right? The most likely outcome is that America balkanizes. Like, I don't know how, especially after this next collapse, and especially after seeing how outrageous this next government is going to be. Like, this next government, guys, like the Trump government, the Trump 2.0 government. Hey, Watson, how you doing, bud? JR, good to see you, bud. The next Trump government is just going to be a clown show. Like, just a clown show. Because now, like, the first Trump government wasn't so bad because it was all of these Republicans just going, what's going on? And so you had all these Republicans that were just, like, dealing with the reality that, like, Donald Trump became their leader and Donald Trump became the president, and here's Donald Trump, and I guess, oh my God, like, what's going on? And you got all these QAnon guys, and everybody's just like, oh my God, it's ridiculous, what's happening? Whereas now, the next Donald Trump election, there's going to be Donald Trump, there's going to be Lauren Boebert, there's going to be Matt Gaetz, there's going to be Ted Cruz, there's going to be Marjorie Taylor Greene, right? Like, all of these clowns, right, that are there with Trump, right? And they're going to come forward in force, right? And all of their ridiculous bullshit nonsense is going to take center stage, and everyone's just going to be like, here we go, right? Off to the races, right? Off to the races. And it's going to be ridiculous. Like, what's going to happen is going to be ridiculous. Yeah, DeSantis, right, is another one. And there's a bunch of others, right? And let's not forget about the Democrats that are actually Republicans, right? And so It's going to be clown shoes. There's just no other way to describe it. Like, and it's going to be violent. There's going to be absurd bullshit that's going to happen. And there's definitely going to be states that, as this is happening, are basically going to be like, why are we participating in this at all? Like, literally, they're going to say to themselves, the Democrats were worthless. They didn't do anything. There's no hope whatsoever of a third party coming out of any of this. There's no hope whatsoever of any reprieve for any of this. Donald, like, literally half of the country is turning against the country in big and significant ways. We are going to see, like, a revolt. We're just going to see a revolt. And that revolt is going to appear through balkanization, through independence groups. Like, I take a look at Brexit. Like, don't tell me it can't happen. Don't tell me it can't happen. You take a look at Brexit. Everybody was like, whoa, Brexit, right? Brexit happened. We can have this. Yeah, QAnon was, well, it still is, right? Why would someone high up on the CIA go to 8chan of all places? I don't think it was CIA. I saw one article one time from Medium that kind of said that, but there was a fellow that did a pretty good QAnon Into the Storm kind of thing. And if you haven't seen QAnon Into the Storm, it's actually really good. And it really is just as simple as, like, some dude started doing this because he wanted to, you know? I don't know how much CIA involvement there actually was. The thing that I find absolutely amazing ever since the war of Ukraine, I see lots of common with right-winger in international politics, but of course their solutions are... Yeah, it's constantly this way, Eric. The right-wingers are good in terms of... their diagnosis. They know something's gone wrong, but their solutions are basically just do more capitalism, right? Yeah, Brexit's been a total disaster. That doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean anything. Since when has something not working ever stopped Westerners from moving forward on something? Oh yeah, sorry, Mystic, you did ask a question up here, and I missed it. No, you had a follow-up. What about fiscally far left, but socially center right? What am I? So you're like nationalizing industries, but like I don't know socially center right. Like what is that even? Is that so like everyone can do what they like, but like we're not gonna legislate anything? Is that the idea, I guess? That like everybody's just sort of left to fend for themselves in this like marketplace of ideas, forgetting that like the white power structure is still the cultural center, while simultaneously like nationalizing resources and all of this sort of stuff. I don't know, dude. I don't know. I feel like that is kind of a brand of socialism, communism, right? That like, but I don't know if I've got a name for it. An early 20s Stalinist? Yeah, it does have that kind of vibe, actually. Very, very sort of specific. Socially center right, gay marriage but no adoption. Socially center right would be Bernie Sanders? Is that right? Because, like, what would be the center right position socially? Like, it's literally just like, it's fine if you're gay, but like, don't ask, don't tell legislation. That's what I think when you say socially center right. I think just like we just don't talk about it. We're just not interested in discussing it. You can do what you want. We're not going to pass any laws to suppress you or do anything like that. You know, get the government out of it, all of this. But we're not going to actually, like, do anything. in order to address any kind of the social issues that such arrangements can bring up. Being socially center-right is kind of a hands-off, like whatever is kind of thing, and I get why people are like that, but it doesn't jive with me because it seems to exclude history, right? That you just go like whatever is, and so if you say that while a person is in like dire straits and is at the bottom of the social ladder, right, then you can maintain some really shitty stuff. Like, if you're socially center-right while there's Jim Crow laws in effect, then you're basically just being like, it is what it is, it is what it is, and you're not really moving forward on anything. 1950s Rockwellian family structure, redistributive economic policies. Well, if it's far left, that's beyond redistributive economic policies. Far left is nationalization, right? Is the state basically taking over infrastructure. Which talking point? Did I stumble into the weeds? Oh my god. Did I ruin everything? Are we enemies now? We're enemies now, Generation Y, man. Finally, more and more people are picking up on this Batman thing. Here's a great articulation. Suit up, boy wonder. It's time to keep the proletariat down. You got it, Batman. Wait, what? Robin, I draw $1 billion salary from a company I inherited, and which I put no labor into. Regular folks resent this. That's dangerous. So I dress as a terrifying night creature and run around every evening, keeping everyone on the straight and narrow. Everyone feels simultaneously afraid of me and protected by me, leaving no mental room to question basic economic institutions. Wow. Wait, if you're so cruel, how come you adopted and saved me? You do life-threatening work for food and room, Robin. Food and a room! Anyone see the news? The French left has built a coalition to take on Macron? We'll see. We'll see, Seraphim. There's always been that kind of looming threat in the left in France. And it always comes down to the same thing. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Right? Every election, it's the same narrative. Right? Oh, the French left has built a coalition to take on Macron. It didn't work. Right? So we'll see. Yeah, and this is a fine analysis from Watson as well. I have. It's a sock dem joke. Mélenchon is basically Jeremy Corbyn with a French flourish. Yeah, I mean, that's a fine analysis. And you can I think it's reasonable to like figures like Jeremy Corbyn and Bernie Sanders. I think it's rational. Like, I'm not sitting here being like, if you like these guys, you're an asshole. But they are what they are. Right? Which is mainly reformist capitalists, right? So, is what it is. Oh, here's a fun one. Global inflation rates have risen since 2020. But check it out. So US up 8.5. Japan is at 1.2. Although it looks like they had a big, Canada at 6.7, UK. So everybody's floating around 6.7. Spain's at 9.8. But check out China. They had a big, drop. Right? And then they're just at 1.5. Right? Raising kind of interesting questions about, hey, what's up with their inflation? Why is their inflation so low? And I mean, I guess you could attribute it to demand is low because they've been doing lockdowns, right? Watson, can always rely on you, dude. It's rational if you suck them cowards. Come on up, buddy. Milo tends to agree with you, Watson, by the way, when it comes to sockdowns. He's very much sees the means of he wants to seize the means of the kibble. That's what he's all about, right? Isn't that right, Milo? You just want the kibble to be all yours. So what's going on in China? Right? I guess demand is low because they've been doing lockdowns and they've been fighting back. But I also tend to think that, like, a lot of the quote-unquote inflation that exists in a lot of these countries is just corporations jacking prices, right? And China has price controls. So, like, you want to jack prices in China, China's basically like, nah, bro, that's not going to happen. So that helps keep your inflation nice and low, right? Jeremy Corbyn is kind of okay, though. He was screwed over with all the he's anti-Semitic talk. Yeah, well, it's because he actually acknowledged Palestine, right? Like, you can't do that. Speaking of that very thing, where is it? You know what? We'll get to it. We'll get to it. Odessa, Texas no longer has water. Shutdown could last 48 hours. Temperatures are in the triple digits. Instead of fixing Texas's infrastructure, Greg Abbott spends all his time policing our vaginas and building a shitty wall. Ted Cruz runs away to Cancun. Neither gives a damn about you. This is the kind of shit that I'm talking about. That capitalism will be the ultimate thing that convinces people to swing over to our side. Right? That, like, they don't have water. Right? Shutdown could last 48 hours. How long do you think you could last without water? Yep. Barnabas nailing it, right? Like, capitalist water lines. Capitalists will take the water. They will commodify water. Like, they'll put a price on it. For sure they will. 100%. Yep, the anarchy of the market, right? Milo wants to seize the means of consumption. That's right. Yeah, he just wants to eat everything. That's right. Don't mess with Texas. You'll literally die of dehydration. Yeah. Right? Like, 48 hours without water is actually very, like, that's a crisis. This is a major, 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 major crisis for the town of Odessa, right? Like, you're talking about needing to ship water in. Like, you're talking about a major, major crisis, and people are still walking around pretending like this free market is real, right? To a degree, Ligandies, like, water bills usually are associated with, like, just access, you know? But they're gonna turn it into literally, like, I poured a cup of water that cost me $1. It's gonna get there. Not being able to shower is awful. Like, I had water, but it just wasn't heated for 48 hours. I was upset. Yeah, now imagine that you couldn't turn on your tap to get a drink. Right? Absolutely brutal. The human body cannot survive for more than 48 hours without water, period. Oh, man. What a time to be alive, right? What a time to be alive. I'm actually quite grateful. Speaking of showers, when I went out to Manitoba, I had a conversation with my sister, and she got talking to me because I shave my beard every so often, right? And my scalp gets quite itchy. And she was like, why do you shave your beard? And I'm like, because it gets really itchy. And she's like, oh, here try this shampoo. And so I bought that shampoo just today. So I'm hoping that I'm going to use this shampoo, and I did today, and it's really, really, really nice. But I hope it's going to alleviate the itching. And so the beard might become a permanent edifice, because I like the beard. I like the way I look with the beard. It just physically drives me crazy to actually have, right? Your sweat is basically water. Stop complaining. Freedom! Yeah. Yeah, imagine no coffee, too. Oh, my God. Yeah. Dude. That's when the revolution will really begin. When if the coffee beans run out, right? If the coffee beans run out. Isn't that right, Milo? Yes, that's right. If the coffee beans run out, then we will have a revolution and overthrow the means of production. So, the court bans activities of the Socialist Party in Ukraine, right? The Socialist Party of Ukraine was a social democratic political party in Ukraine. It was one of the oldest parties and was created by the former members of the Soviet-era Communist Party of Ukraine in late 1991, when the Communist Party was banned. It was represented in the Ukraine's parliament from 1994 to 2007, and was the third or fourth largest party in the Rada over 13 years. From 2007 onwards, the election results of the party became extremely marginal. Alexander Moroz led the party for more than 20 years. The party was suspended in the wake of the February 2022 Russian invasion, and it was officially banned by a court decision on the 15th of June, so just yesterday, 2022. Right? So, we're really holding our breath for the Nazi Party to get banned any time now. The Nazi Party is going to get banned any moment, right? Any moment, Milo. Any moment, right? So they're literally banning socialist parties and marginal ones at that, like ones that are not that big or impressive or important, right? So they're really going after the small fish, while keeping all the far right parties intact, keeping like the literal Nazi Party intact, right? Normal. You look like you could be on a silhouette with the rest of the communist founding fathers. Oh my God, I would consider that like the greatest achievement of my life. If somebody did like me, and then there was like Stalin and Mao. That first art is cool. I don't know which art you're talking about, bud. I missed it. I'm so sorry, JR. I let you down. Sock Dems, but we can reason with the right wing with our reformist politics. Yeah, the ruling class. About that. Yep. We'll appeal to their better nature. The fist art. Got it. Milo, get out of the way. I know, you just want cuddles and love. Send some angles, I'll Photoshop you. Let me get my bigger beard back, and then we'll talk. Yeah, like, look, the social democratic position is literally, let's appeal to the better nature of psychopaths, right? Like, that's their entire position. And, like, you just recognize that it's silly. Like, the only reason social democracy worked, and you guys know what I'm going to say, right? The only reason social democracy worked is because it was a compromised position from a threat of communist revolution. That the capitalist class goes, oh, okay, we'll actually do something to help you. Please don't overthrow us, right? Like that's how it works. You're never going to vote it in. You're never going to actually like convince the ruling class to do something unless they're under threat of revolution, right? Which is why, like, here in Canada, the NDP are so pathetic and weak. They're just completely co-opted, right? Marx, Engels, Lenin, Trotsky, John, serious facial lettuce. Yeah, dude, I believe you. And to be controversial, we could have Lenin, Trotsky, Stalin, and John, just to fuck with everybody, right? Get Mao and Deng in there too, just to fucking piss them off. Let's not kick off the Trotsky Stalin thing, okay? Let's not kick off the Stalin Trotsky thing here. I knew it. The second Watson said Trotsky, I was like, here we go. Trotsky's been on some silhouettes. For sure he has been. I think the reason why Trotsky doesn't make it onto a lot of the... here we go. Thanks, Ken. Good to see you, by the way, bud. The reason why Trotsky doesn't make it on a lot is because he never was the ruler. He never really was the ruler of Russia, right? So he never really. So when you see like Mao and the traditional like Fidel, right? Like usually it's a list of like the rulers of the place. Then of course Marx is there because he's the guy, right? So you get Marx and then Lenin and Stalin and Fidel and Mao, right? Those are sort of your guys. Now we're throwing down, Watson. Now we're throwing down. Holy shit. Engels' beard is better than Marx's beard? Holy fuck, dude. Holy fuck. Now we're talking. Why am I forgetting this guy's first name? Engels' beard. Come on. Okay, guys. Things have just gotten serious in this chat. Marx. Oh, come on. Get out of here. Get out of here! Mark's beard. This is it. This is the thing. This is the thing that's going to finally divide all of us. We are all going... Here we go. So here's our man. Yeah, I agree. He does have like wider sort of vibes, for sure. He's definitely better groomed, without a doubt. You can't debate that. Like he's keeping this nice and shorn while letting this go. Dude, how do you eat? How do you eat? How does he eat? Right, set poll. You got it, bud. I was thinking about it, and then you said set poll, and I'm like, here we go. Who's got the better beard? Engels, Marx. Here we go. This is the thing that's going to divide us. Yeah, let's divide this community once and for all. God damn it. Who's got the better beard? Right? And then Marx is just obviously like letting it go. Like you can see with Engels, right? Like Engels has like a nice cropped hair. Like he's really grooming himself. Like you can even see it in the way he dresses. Whereas Marx is clearly like, I'm Karl Marx. I'm here. Oh, I know, Mr. Milo. Oh, I know. Milo wants in. Oh! Of course Engels has some sort of grease in his beard. For sure he does. For sure he does. It's got a nice shine on it. Like, it's probably the same stuff he's putting in his hair. Right? And he's got such sad eyes, don't you think? He's just got kind of sad eyes. Right? Whereas Marx really is just kind of like, come at me, bro. Right? Come at me, bro. Oh shit, it's a 50-50 split right now. Damn, we are divided. We're completely divided as a community. This is it. This is the end of my channel. Engels looks a bit hipsterish. Yes, I completely agree with this assessment of Engels, for sure. Like, this guy is walking around today, for sure. But then again, so is Marx. Like, for sure, Marx. Marx has a more, like, Santa Claus sort of vibe going about him. If this was white, he'd be ho-ho-hoing all the way. Yeah, 50-50. We could have a war. Oh, my God. Yeah, Marx has that nonchalant look. A little douchey, but endearing. Yeah, you know he's a good guy. Like chaotic good, right? Lawful good. Right? Right? For the D&D nerds out there, like, I'm looking at lawful good, chaotic good. Lawful good, chaotic good. Right? Right? Another successfully destroyed leftist group. We did it, guys. We did it. Okay, did we do it? I'm ending the poll. If anybody hasn't voted and you want to tip the balance... Oh! Tips over to Marx with 53%. End poll. Karl Marx was basically in Attack on Titan as a Titan. Bakanin is Wario version of Marx. Oh yeah, let's get Bakanin in on this. Bakanin. Mocked, good to see you, bud. Dude, that's the most accurate thing I think anyone has ever said about Bakanin in my life. Like, here's Marx. Right? Bakanin. This is like the stages of falling into alcoholism, right? Like how you start, where you're going, where you end up. I demand a recount. Yeah, John, find me 300,000 votes. Yeah, you got it. Now people will endlessly talk about the 50 plus 3 debate. That's right. Yeah, Bakanin, as you see, literally has no teeth. Yeah. Well, hopefully, guys, if we can make it through this, as a community, then we're going to make it. We're for sure going to make it. All right. We already talked about how the court bans the Socialist Party in Ukraine, but keeps the Nazi Party intact. Totally cool. Bakanin looks like a young Dumbledore. That he does. They're all wizards, don't you know, right? Oh yeah, this is coming out of the NDP. Yeah, whatever. Let's roll.
Occupied Palestinian territory in Israel has alarming findings. Increased discrimination, ongoing human rights abuses, and a deepening asymmetrical conflict where Israel clearly has no intention of ending the illegal occupation. This adds to the list of reputable reports that this government is ignoring. Human rights are human rights everywhere in the world. The cycle of violence will continue as long as this government stays silent. Why won't the government even consider this United Nations report and revisit its policy towards Palestine and Israel?
Yes. The Honourable Minister, or the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and it gives me
again an honor to talk about the steadfast friendship that we have with Israel. We are a friend and ally of Israel, and we are a friend of the Palestinian people. And in that context, we are committed to the goal of a comprehensive, just, and lasting peace in the Middle East. We know that that is not easy. It takes time, it takes energy, it takes commitment, but that includes, always will include, the creation of a Palestinian state living side by side in peace with Israel. This is consistent with Canada's long-standing position. We'll continue to work with every member of this House to make that vision a reality. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yep. Just benign breath, boilerplate. You got it, Watson. Just nailing it. And one thing, that UN report, right? Compare the UN report between what's happening in Israel with what's happening in China, right? We just sent like a UN High Commissioner, right? The former president of Chile went to China and was basically like, yeah, it looks like they're trying really hard and they're dealing with the things that are happening. They even shut down some of these schools. You know, they're trying to make it happen, right? Whereas the UN was basically of the Palestinian-Israel conflict. It's like, Israel's fucking genociding these motherfuckers. Straight up. And like, so you see the disparity that's going on for real in the world stage? Yeah, I prefer a one-state solution with a full right to return. I mean, yeah, that would be nice, but at this stage in the game, given the like dramatic evil that's happening. Yeah, and by the way, Zionism, Judaism, not the same thing. Thank you, Watson. Adding clarity. Just, we don't want to get banned, right? We don't want to get banned, or we don't want to get labeled as anti-Semites, right? We support Jews. We support the Jewish religion. We support Judaism. Zionism is a whole other ball of wax. And to really put a pin in it, my position aligns completely with Albert Einstein's. Right? What Albert Einstein said about Zionists is exactly what I think. So if you're gonna shit on me for shitting on Zionists, then you're shitting on Albert Einstein. Who's the fool now, suckers? Yeah, right to return for everyone. Yeah. If the Middle East was not cut up by Europe, where do you think the borders would be? Let's have some fun. Let's do it. Let's do it. Well, that's actually really tough, isn't it? Because let's look up the Ottoman Empire. That's the last Ottoman Empire. That's the last time there was like a really concrete group that like of non-Westerners that actually had significant control. Right? The Ottoman Empire, I think, is probably your last gasp before Westerners go in and really mess everything up, right? That's a bit confusing in terms of a map. Let's look at this one. No, that's 16. Sure, this 1912. There you go. There you go. Right? So, like the Ottoman Empire is. Let's take a quick. So you can see it spreads into a little bit. So this is Turkey. We've got, come on, let's do it. Come on, John, you can do this. So this is Iraq. This is modern day Iraq, right? This is Israel over here. So, dips down into part of Saudi Arabia. You got Turkey right up in here. Syria, Lebanon. Georgia's right over here, isn't it? No, that's Georgia right there. What am I missing? I'm definitely missing something right here. Let's look at the map. Yeah, I said Syria, Lebanon, yeah, Saudi. I got all that. Let's take a look. Oh, okay. Never mind. What am I? Azerbaijan, but Azerbaijan is over there. So, did I do it? Am I the coolest person alive? I didn't get these. Bulgaria. I always forget, like, Bulgaria and, like, Serbia, North Macedonia. But it looks like Greece wasn't a part of this, right? So no Greece. So the Ottoman. So, so we're living in a world where it wasn't cut up by Europe, but let's pretend as though the Ottoman Empire still collapses, right? So the Ottoman Empire collapses. It's pretty difficult for me to believe that this long strip would get broken up the way that it would. right? Like, and this is such a crucial juncture, right? Like, where the West picked Israel to be is like so crucial, right? Because it's the land bridge between Africa and the Middle East. It's as crucial and critical a military position as anyone could possibly see. I don't think Iraq would exist in the way that it does. Straight up. Like, I just don't think Iraq would exist in the way that it does. Because the narrative of Iraq has always been the Sunnis and the Shiites, right? So there's always been this sort of disparity and always been this sort of long-standing conflict. So it's easy for me to believe that they wouldn't be that way, right? That they wouldn't fall in that kind of pattern. I do think that, like, this probably would have remained one country. Turkey is what as Turkey is. Like, I think that Turkey is Turkey. So the question really is, like, does this Lebanon, Israel, Jordan, Syria, Iraq arrangement really work? Right? Because anybody and everybody would like control of that corridor. It's an enormous corridor. It's super, super important. And it's only now that we're in, like, the modern era with technology that we're even considering circumventing this corridor with bridges and, like, land kind of with other methods, right? Russian Empire is Ottoman Empire. I'll be really legit with you guys. I don't know nearly enough about the Ottoman Empire to be like, oh, am I messing up? I don't know nearly enough about the Ottoman Empire to really, really comment too widely on it, right? Like, the label is on the Russian Empire. Got it. Got it. Syriana analysis is awesome. Fantastic. Yeah, of course. Yes, I think that this is accurate. I'm told these borders were to ensure constant chaos. Like, just take a look at Iraq. Iraq is case in point. Like, you're taking two ethnic groups who are at odds with one another, typically, right? And putting them in the same borders and telling them to negotiate and communicate with one another. It is going to be constant chaos. It is, obviously, it's going to be constant chaos, right? And it's going to make it easy to divide and conquer, just like Barnabas says here. I know, buddy. I love you too, buddy. Okay, down you go. Down you go. Yep, did you hear you're running out of soil? First sand, now soil. Yep. We're screwed, dude. We're screwed. Like, we are going to go through a pretty major population decline. Like, there's I think there's no way to avoid it at this point, and we would be wise to prepare for it, right? We would be wise to prepare for it. Did you hear the news from Colombia where a Hitler fanboy has a chance to win their election? Wah, 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 wah. You're forgetting the major calming influence in the Middle East in the 20th century, pan-Arab nationalism, i.e. Baathism. Yeah, I don't know everything. I don't know everything, right? My expertise is especially in modern politics. So the yeah, straight up lines on the map are scars and traumas. Yeah, and I mean, like, every single country, like, Iraq literally gets blown apart because of American intervention for the longest time. The Shah of Iran, right? Like, what's happened in Afghanistan over the last 20 years? Like, it's going to take them decades and decades to recover from any of this, if they can, right? If they can at all. And the major concern from the American perspective is that they can't allow power to actually exist in these regions because China and Russia will want to develop it, right? And so the strategy for the last 50, 60 years has been just blow it up. It doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter. Just blow it up, right? Like, if this place is blown apart, then China and Russia will never be able to use it, right? So we'll just blow it apart, right? And meanwhile, Saudi Arabia has basically been sitting there being like, hey, yeah, we're your buddies. Yeah, don't fuck with us, right? It's a miracle that Iran has not been reinvaded and has actually managed to withstand during this period of time. Although they had to keep in power like a fairly far-right theocratic party. But that's what happens during these periods of extreme crisis, right? The populace will vote in and support the people who are most militant and most willing to go to war. And if that's the fucking theocrats, then that's the way it is, right? Yeah. No, I remember the United States, but that's quite different than like a full-scale invasion like what happened in Iraq and Afghanistan, right? So that's more along the lines of an assassination. I'd make a slip of land around the Mediterranean, call it Rome Light. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway. So this is fun. Check this shit out. How the Prime Minister Stole Freedom. This is a paperback, released May 24th, right? Number 1 this week on Amazon. Number 1. Justin Trudeau's in trouble, guys. Justin Trudeau's in trouble. Like, dude. This guy's in trouble. How the Prime Minister Stole Freedom, number 1 on Amazon. Like, people are pissed. People are pissed. The signs are shaping up. Yep, children's books brought to you by the People's Party of Canada. Oh, I didn't mean to close that, because you're absolutely right. Like, you're absolutely right. Like, who else bought? Let's Go. Customers who viewed this item also viewed Let's Go Brandon. My Choice, the ethical case against COVID-19 vaccine mandates. 100 PCS, I did that Trudeau stickers, waterproof Justin Trudeau's, I did that stickers. Yeah. Like, you're not wrong. But the fact that it's number 1, right? Like, it's not all PPC. There's not enough PPC people to do this, right? There's not enough of them. So something's hitting here, right? Ugh. I can't find your books on Amazon, John. I'm gonna look into this, DM. I'm gonna look into this. I'm not that like crazy about it because like one of them is like a very dry economics textbook, basically. The other ones are like poetry books. I'll look into that, DM, and I'll get back to you, okay, bud? I'm shocked they have enough people to run for ridings, yeah. Yeah, the cons have taken up most of the PPC talking points anyway. Yeah, that's right. I think the cons took a look at the PPC, and they were starting to ask, like, and it's a legitimate question to ask, like, why does the PPC exist? Like, for real. Like, at first, people were willing to sort of shrug and be like, okay, this is just a vanity project by why am I forgetting that name? By the leader of the PPC, right? But this last election really showed you, like, really showed you, no, it's not. It's not, man. Like, if we're not careful, we're going to end up with a PPC guy on the stage, right? That in terms of raw numbers, the PPC are picking up about as many voters as the Greens do, right? In terms of raw numbers. Not Polyev, the leader of the PPC. I'm forgetting his name. But anyway, yeah, I always ask them what freedom was stolen. They never have an answer, yeah. Because the ruling class needs to legitimize fascism through false ideas of freedom. Yep. And like, if the conservatives would be crazy not to respond, right? Would be crazy not to respond to the PPC. There's Maxime Bernier, thank you, sir. They'd be nuts not to respond, and they would be nuts not to, at the very least, start talking the way that the PPC talk. Like, internally, the conservatives, there's a lot of talk going on internally in the Conservative Party right now that if they don't win the next election, the Conservative Party is going to break apart, right? Like, they've lost now 3 consecutive elections, right? Harper loses, then Scheer, then O'Toole. And if they lose one more, there's rumblings within the Conservative Party that sections of it are just going to start breaking away. and they're just going to start saying like, no, we're if we're not capable of seizing a majority, right, or even a minority, for God's sakes, if we're not capable of actually getting power, then we might as well break apart and try to start following our own individual agendas, right? Because you do have like the old reform group, right? You've got the corporate business side of it. You've got the evangelical Christians, right? Like you've got lots of different groups that make up the Conservative Party. Every party is a coalition, right? And so the PPC ruined the Conservatives' chances of winning. I think that's true, DM. So I think the Conservatives are turning to the PPC and saying, hey, we hear you. We're listening to you. We understand what you're saying. And especially Poilievre. I think Poilievre is the guy that's actually doing the best job of it, right? And Poilievre polls very well amongst the PPC types. And so, and I don't know, like, is it a mistake, right? Is it a mistake? Because if you're someone like Maxime Bernier and you actually want the Conservative Party to be much further to the right than it is, right? Well, breaking away, and no, I'm not rubbing my hands because I'm anxious. I'm rubbing my hands because my dog keeps licking my hands, and I've got hair all over me, and so I'm like getting hair all over my hands and then rubbing my hands. Yeah, you're seeing that split taking part in Ontario. How many parties on the right ran a few weeks ago with the same anti-lockdown, anti-vaccine, anti-cancel culture platform? Yeah. You're right, like the New Blue, the Ontario Party, right? And I am out of peanut butter, actually. I'm going grocery shopping soon, and I need to pick up some peanut butter for this little guy. And so, of course, I'm talking in an empty room, and he's thinking to himself, "Oh, John must be talking to me," right? Tinfoil conspiracy is people think Trudeau will fake his death, and then Freeland will run. Freeland's such a ghoul, man. Like, she's not going to do well. Like, she isn't. When it comes to be her time to actually run as the leader of that party, she's not going to do well. People aren't going to respond to her. She looks like a fucking ghoul, right? Like, Geoffrey, Milo, calm it down, buddy. Calm it down. Like, you just need to look at her like. What's a good picture to really illustrate any of these pictures, right? And like, she's not gonna galvanize the populace, right? Like, she's not that interesting a figure. Yeah, all that matters is vote as left as you can. Bernier and Skippy are friends. Methinks the PPC will disappear once Skippy gets the con leadership nailed down. We'll see. We'll see, Watson. Like, if any conservative leader is smart, they'll offer Bernier a sweetheart deal, and let him come in, right? Let him come into the party. Let him be the deputy, for God's sakes. Give him a really good ministry or something, right? Like something really. I think Trudeau will pull a Mulroney. Resign 6 months before the next election and let Kim Campbell take the electoral ass whipping. I don't know if that's the case, though. Like, Trudeau's very arrogant, right? Like, Trudeau's a very sort of arrogant person, and in his view, he's been winning these elections, right? Like, he's the one that's getting the party through. He's the one that's doing it, right? Bernier almost won the con leadership in 2017. Skippy backed him then. Yeah, and that kind of stuff plays, right? That kind of stuff plays. We'll see, man. We'll see. It is interesting. Like, if the PPC goes back into the Conservatives, then we're like for sure gonna have a Conservative leadership, like for sure. So it really is just like well, first of all, we're being a bit presumptuous. The leadership race for the Conservatives hasn't been won yet. People are still convinced that Charest is going to be the guy. I've heard a narrative that says that Charest's the better choice for the Conservatives because he can shore up Quebec. right? Which is interesting. Good question, bud. Good question. It's got to be soon. When is the Conservative leadership vote? Saturday, September 10th. So a bit of time, couple of months, right? Couple of months. And they just recently had a bit of a convention. I saw someone, Charest is a corrupt liberal, of course. I mean, that's a bit of a paradox, right? Charest is a corrupt liberal. Like, yeah, if you're a liberal, you're corrupt, right? So we'll keep an eye on it. All right. So, according to the Financial Post, Canada's housing correction has started. What's surprising is its speed. This one I'm actually going to read because I want to know what they're saying, because I don't think so, right? Like, you guys know what my position is. Very simple, that we have a billionaire oligarch class now, right? That any housing that goes up for sale has to make it through these speculative investors. What they're being called is speculative investors, but are oligarchs, right? And they're buying up the housing because they have nowhere else to put their money. No one can compete with them because they have such huge amounts of wealth in the first place, right? They've got nothing else to buy, and so they're just buying houses. The housing price is not going to come down for that very reason, because any time a house goes up for sale, the billionaires are just going to snag it up because they can. They've got the capital and the ability to do so, right? So we're not living in an old market kind of way where we're competing with each other, right? Yeah, you with 30K down payment versus billion-dollar corporation. Exactly. So the idea that the housing prices are actually going to come down, in my view, it's not going to happen, right? But I can be wrong, right? I can be wrong. So let's take a look. The long-expected correction in Canada's housing market is underway, but what is surprising observers is how quickly it's happening. Data from the Canadian Real Estate Association yesterday showed that seasonally adjusted existing home sales fell 8.6% in May from the month before, down 21.7% from a year ago. But that's not prices, right? That's just housing sales. That's just telling you that people aren't buying houses anymore because they can't afford them, right? And perhaps they're waiting for the market to correct itself, but I'm of the opinion that it's not. This is the new market. This is how it is now. For the first time since the pandemic rally began, home resales on a national level dropped below levels recorded in February 2020, said RBC Assistant Chief Economist Robert Hogue. What is surprising is how fast we got here, says CREA Senior Economist Sean Cathcart yesterday after the data came out. With the now very steep expected pace of Bank of Canada rate hikes, which is only going to hurt people who have mortgages, right? And bankrupt them, putting new houses on the market for who to buy? Billionaires. And fixed mortgage rates getting way out in front of those, instead of playing out steadily over 2 years, that cooling off of sales and prices seems to have mostly played out over the last 2 months. But there hasn't been a cooling out of prices. I don't know what they're talking about. Interest rates and psychology may explain that. Mortgage rates have gone from lows of about 1.5 to close to 5% for 5-year fixed, and variable rates are headed for 4 to 4.5 by year end, said BMO senior economist Robert Kavik. Stress tests, the contract rate plus 200 BPS, are now nearing 7%. By late summer, any still favorable rate holds will be gone, and this new interest rate reality will be fully sinking in, he wrote. Psychology is also at work. Early this year, Canadians widely expected home prices to keep rising, a record 64% according to Nanos survey data, and this caused many buyers to stretch their finances for fear of missing out, said Kavik. But, beginning with the bank's first nudge in interest rates, those market expectations began crumbling. Now, less than 44% expected higher prices this year. Now, less than 44% expect higher prices this year, and 23% expect lower prices, up from less than 6% early in the year. We've long argued that breaking the market psychology was key to settling conditions back down, and that deed now looks to be about done. The big questions are how far prices will slide, and what effect, if any, it will have on the economy. RBC thinks that as the Bank of Canada continues to raise rates, home prices will fall about 10% nationwide, and closer to 13% in the more expensive markets of Ontario and British Columbia. So even if they slide about 10% nationwide, that still puts them like way higher than they were like in 2012. Like this idea, like they're treating this tiny little dip that like maybe they're creating, right? This tiny little dip as if it's a market correction, right? When like we need housing prices to drop like 50 to 60% for anything serious, right? Globally, Canada has been identified as one of the more vulnerable housing markets. Capital Economics sees prices falling between 5% and 20% in Canada, New Zealand, Australia, Sweden, and UK and Norway, but says there's risk of steeper drops. For comparison, it sees the US prices just flatlining, right? Which is what I expect to see, honestly. I expect, because these guys are not talking, like they're not even admitting that the investors are taking over the market, right? They're just not admitting it. So they literally, oh my God, buddy, you're just like, drama pug. Drama. Yeah, corporations should not be able to buy housing. Like the idea that people are struggling to get housing while they're like literally corporations buying up housing is grotesque. There's no other, can't wait for the tent cities with populations of 50,000. Yep, they're coming. Housing prices will continue to rise. Trillionaire psychopaths will continue to control the market. More working stiffs will end up homeless. Nut Milk, what's up, commie? Good to see you, bud. Good to see you, bud. It's like people saying, oh my God, you could pay $80K for a house in Toronto. The housing market has cratered. Yes, exactly, generation, right? And if you can convince people to say that kind of dumb bullshit, then you can keep this grift going, right? As long as people are just like, wow, prices are down. You only have to spend $10 million on a house now. Like, then you can believe what you like, right? Falling home prices will drag on economic growth, though the effect may not be felt until next year. Capital expects drops of 10% to 20% in residential investment as it becomes less profitable to build homes, which could knock 0.5 to 1% off GDP. Canada looks especially vulnerable to this, says Capital's senior economic advisor Ricky Redwood. Literally, they're saying if housing prices drop, that's bad for our economy. We have a sick, twisted, backwards economy that needs to be destroyed. Like, when I provide the solutions that I think make sense, and people say that'll destroy the economy, my response is yes, that's correct. I think this economy is evil. I think that it has failed us. I think that we need to completely destroy it and rebuild it from the ground up, excluding the capitalists from it entirely. You think Jesus would be a communist? Jesus is a communist for sure, right? Jesus is 100% a communist, right? This is a guy that was walking around saying, give your money to the poor, right? This is a guy that was walking around saying, love your neighbor as yourself. This is a guy that was whose followers literally set up communes. You can read about it in Acts, right? Like, Jesus 100% was a communist. No two ways about it. And the people who espouse his message without acknowledging that are frauds. Complete and total utter frauds. Like, Jesus for sure was a communist. Wonder if the modern Hoovervilles will have Wi-Fi. At least we'll have UBI and good teeth. Yeah. Bank of Canada does not care. Yeah, it's because our economy is built on a house of cards and fictitious capital. Exactly. Yeah, Jesus was right all along. Which is why we had to kill him. Do not turn my father's house into a den of thieves. Yeah. Jesus was against interest. Yeah, bankers. That's right. Like, I keep saying this over and over again. Like, we should definitely start reading the Bible more as communists, because our enemies attempt to claim an expertise on the text, but they're frauds, like complete and total utter frauds, right? But Jesus isn't about the government, and socialism is about government. Socialism is when the government does stuff. Womp, womp, womp. Oh, here's a YouTube video that I might put on if I need to take a break. This is Lake Mead and Hoover Dam water level update. Pretty scary shit. Pretty scary shit. We'll save that for later, though. Bill Gates says crypto and NFTs are a sham. don't count Bill Gates among the fans of cryptocurrencies and NFTs. Those digital asset trends are 100% based on greater fool theory, the Microsoft co-founder said Tuesday at a TechCrunch conference, referencing the notion that investors can make money on worthless or overvalued assets as long as people are willing to bid them higher. Gates added that he's not long or short crypto, and he mocked Bored Apes NFTs, joking that expensive digital images of monkeys will improve the world immensely. Instead, Gates said he prefers old-fashioned investing. I'm used to asset classes, like a farm where they have output, or like a company where they make products, he said. His comments come as Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are crashing. Bitcoin hit an all-time high of 69,000 in November 2021. Since then, the world's most valuable cryptocurrency has lost 2/3 of its value, tumbling below 23,000 on Tuesday. It has lost about 25% of its value since Friday. Crypto exchange Coinbase announced that it's laying off 18% of its employees as the digital currency market continues to crumble. Gates has previously doubted crypto. In 2021 interview with Bloomberg, Gates said that it was one thing for Elon Musk and Tesla to invest in Bitcoin, but it doesn't mean average investors should follow that lead. I do think people get bought into these manias. Who may not have as much money to spare, Gates said, so I'm not bullish on Bitcoin. This is actually a pretty big story because people do respond to this sort of thing. If a guy like Bill Gates comes out and is like, cryptocurrencies, what, people are going to just bail on it, right? And the whole, as he points out, the whole point of the market is to just sucker some greater fool, right? Some bigger idiot. Somebody who's a bigger moron than you, right? Don't they need to find a buyer? Yeah, except if they can't, they're the bag holder, right? They're just the one holding on to the money. Get fucked, right? So the whole thing, like, and I would be glad to see these cryptocurrencies go away, dude. All right, we got people calling numbers in the chat. It is about time. It is about time. You're right. You guys are right. Fictitious capital. You got it, bud. Mr. Lynch. Mr. Lynch. I can't believe this is the first time I'm putting this together. You're a mean one, Mr. Lynch.
Here we go for today's number.
All right.
It's June 16.
I'm in with the 7. I'm in with the 7.
2022.
We got a lot of 7s.
Balls.
We got an 8, we got a 4, we got a 3,
Each
we got a
ball
10.
has a number.
Somebody had a 4 up here.
Numbers 1
Here we go.
through 10.
Here we go. Today's my day, guys.
Swirl the numbers.
Swirl the numbers. That's right. David Lynch likes to play with his balls.
Pick a number.
That's right. That's right. Here we go.
Today's number is 4.
Get fucked. DM. DM with the victory. Bum ba ba bum ba ba bum bum ba ba bum ba ba bum bum ba ba bum ba ba bum. Yep, I agree. Triple-decker toadstill sandwich with arsenic sauce. And remember, 3 is half of 8. That's right. Thank you, DM, for reminding us, right? Thank you for reminding us. But 6 is just 4 plus 2 if you do the math. That's right. That's right. This time, it's literally half of 8. That's right. So who got the 8? Ligandies, you can come in too. Why not? You win too, dude. Sure. Amanda, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to exclude you. Yep, I'm with you, Eric. And Mocked, I know, is also picking 7s. So we're gonna do it. Dang it, we're gonna do it. The 7 has been eluding us. Dude, I hope that this crypto shit just dies. I hope that it dies completely. I hope that it becomes like a joke that people laugh about. Cause like, it's an environmental disaster. Like, why in the shit does anyone think this is a good idea? It's absolutely it's an abomination to me. Get rid of these things. Like, and honestly, anybody who's bag holding this shit, I'm like, good, get fucked completely. Get out of here. Like, it's the epitome of somebody just messing with fictitious capital in order to try to create passive income for themselves while destroying the planet to do it. It's like absolutely the epitome of just capitalist grotesque bullshit. Crypto bros. Yeah, what a bunch of dorks, dude. Yeah. No, everybody needs to abandon the idea. Everybody should. Like, the idea that there's digital currency is a good idea, get the fuck out of here. Like, get the absolute fuck out of here. I can't stand it as a basic concept. It's just abhorrent. And it's completely like just stupid monkeys with more, just like with a toy. Just dumb monkeys with a toy being like, oh, well, look at this thing that we can do. And nobody actually stopping and being like, should we do this? This seems like a bad idea. So I need a refresher. How is crypto harming the environment? Because the amount of electricity it consumes, is that the only factor, or is there's more? That's the one that matters. Like, the electricity, it consumes, Bitcoin consumes the same amount of energy as, like, the country of Argentina or Ireland, right? It's an environmental disaster. It's a complete disaster. Like, this idea that it's, like, why should anything like this consume energy, right? Like, what are you talking about, right? Like, what are you talking about at all? Like, a Bitcoin should consume energy? Like, what the fuck? Get out of here. Get out of here. My brother thinks it's a good investment, and we had a debate over it. I told him that you will never become a military. It's a sham. Essentially, we have a bet over it. You're going to win that bet, bud. Right now, especially. Like, these markets are cratering, and the reason why they're cratering is that everybody's starting to realize that it's just a Ponzi scheme. That's all it is. It's based on nothing. It's the most it's the most unstable shit that you can possibly invest in. It's attached to nothing, right? Like, it doesn't produce anything. It has no intrinsic value in and of itself. It's not something that you can use. It's not like a house or a farm or something that has an output or even produces anything of value, right? It's literally a line on a screen. Like, it's meaningless. It's just utterly meaningless. And all it does is consume resources so that a bunch of rich guys can be like, oh, I can use this decentralized currency to win the blockchain. Who gives a absolute fuck? Who gives an absolute fuck? Right? I get the idea that crypto is a way to get out from behind central bank silliness, but the central banks will simply create their own cryptocurrencies and outlaw the rest. And I'm not convinced at all that this base narrative, right, the base narrative of, like, the crypto cult, or whatever you want to call them, the crypto bros, the base narrative is like, it's a decentralized currency and that's good, right? It's been decentralized from governments. And I'm like, is that good? Like, I'm yet to hear anybody actually stand up and be like, that sounds like a nightmare dystopia. Like, that sounds like a total nightmare dystopia to me. Basically, you're saying, let's let billionaires buy whatever they want with no accountability. Like, how about no? Right? How about fucking no? Right? Like, we shouldn't be saying of our oligarch class. You know what the problem with the oligarch class is, guys? That they're not unaccountable enough, right? That's the problem with the oligarch class, is that they have too much accountability right now. So you know what we need to do? We need to create a digital currency that really gets rid of the accountability that they have, right? Really disconnect them, really decentralize them from the bank, and let them trade sex slaves and all this kind of stuff with one another. Like, no. Like, it's so goddamn stupid. Yeah, you know who created the idea that we should have decentralized currency? Hint, it's a fascist economist. No shit. I'm not convinced it's an untrackable currency, too. This sounds just like the thing the feds would do. Rope you in with the idea that it's untrackable, and then spring it on you that it is. I just am like, and again, like, what's the fucking point of it? Like, what is the point of it? Like, it's just a stupid toy that a bunch of kids made. Like, literally, it started as trading magic cards, for God's sakes, right? Yeah, I'm sure the conservative bank or whatever guided the Confed money. I never could have imagined graphic cards can consume so much energy. Oh yeah, like, look, the system of capital will destroy the planet while attempting to create hallucinogenic worlds, right? That's what it is. That's what we're doing. Yeah, one does not. 1,000 in a room mining does. Yeah, absolutely. And it's constant, right? It's constant. To maintain the system, you've got to constantly keep the energy flowing, right? Like it's so fucking stupid. I'm just like, I'm glad to see that someone like Bill Gates is coming out and saying it, even though Bill Gates himself is just another of the oligarch class, the largest agriculturalist in North America, just buying up land. Like this guy is setting up his kids. This guy's setting up his kids to be the future princes and like the kings and queens of America. Like literally, when we're talking about neo-feudalism, we're talking about Bill Gates. He's doing it right. Like he's getting himself set up so that the next generation of Gates will be the rulers of America, for sure. Milo, bud, we went down before, right? We'll go down after the stream is over. You're a good boy. He's standing by the door looking at me. I'm like, dude, we went down already. Meanwhile, the economy is going to collapse, says Wall Street veteran Novogratz. We are going to go into a really fast recession. Veteran investor and Bitcoin bull Michael Nogratz's economic outlook, not so rosy, which he described as headed for a substantial downturn, with the likelihood of a fast recession on the horizon. The economy is going to collapse, he told MarketWatch. We are going into a really fast recession, and you can see that in a lot of ways, he said in a Wednesday interview before the Federal Reserve decided to undertake its biggest interest rate hike in nearly 3 decades. Housing is starting to roll over, he said. Inventories have exploded. There are layoffs in multiple industries, and the Fed is stuck, he said, with a position of having to hike interest rates until inflation rolls over. Central bank policymakers agreed to deliver an unusual 0.75 percentage point rate increase, concluding a closely watched 2-day policy meeting with a move that would push the Fed's benchmark federal funds rate rising to a range between 1.5 and 1.75 as it steps up the effort to quell an inflation rate that is hovering around a 40-year high. It was the largest increase in the central bank's policy rate since November 1994. Before the Fed announced its decision, Novogratz speculated, accurately, it turned out, that the central bank would lift its interest rate by 75 basis points and that the market would rally on that news. He also predicted that stocks will sell off in the coming days. They are hiking into the popping of a bubble, Novogratz said, referencing the soaring price tags on luxury Swiss watches and other assets. So far, the noted investor's prediction has played out, with the Dow Jones Industrial Average rising more than 300 points, or 1%, after briefly running its gain to 600 points. After the Fed meeting broke up and a news conference hosted by Chairman Jerome Powell got underway. The S&P 500 advanced nearly 55 points, or 1.5%. On Tuesday, Novogratz, chief executive of crypto merchant bank Galaxy Digital, drew parallels between the 1998 collapse of highly leveraged LTCM fund and the current implosion playing out in assets such as Bitcoin and Ether on the Ethereum blockchain. The tumble of long-term capital management sent shockwaves through global financial markets and ultimately required a multi-billion-dollar bailout by Wall Street banks. Friedrich von Hayek, yeah, Austrian school guru, yeah, of course. You wanna go get it? You wanna go get it? Go get it! Go get it! Go get it! Yeah, King Lord of Washington County, Sir Gates. Yep. The idea is that the establishment of the Fed in 1917 was a bad thing to do, which led to the Great Depression. I mean, capitalism itself will do that, so you don't need the bank's help. Also, co-worker of Milton Friedman, yeah. But they said Ukraine is winning. Turn ruble into rubble, he said. Yeah, right. No, Ukraine is literally in a position now where it can't win, right? Like, it literally can't. I actually have a really good, where is that? So this I'm not gonna bullshit you guys. This is pretty pro-Russia, right? And they're not trying to be anything but pro-Russia, but I still think it gives a pretty good encapsulation of what is happening in the war generally.
Kiev continues to increase the number of units of the armed forces of Ukraine, the
Say
National
something
Guard,
stupid in a
and
JP
territorial
voice.
defense in various sectors of the front. In the Kharkov region, the Russian army has gone on the offensive again and is restoring lost positions. Fighting continues near the village of Stary Soltov, which according to some reports is already under the control of Russian forces. There are also clashes on the fronts from Zupovka to Melye Prohody. In the area of Izium, the AFU attempts to attack Russian positions in the village of Balaklea. Ukrainian forces are trying to break through the defenses from the northwestern direction and cut off Russian units advancing from Izium to Slavyansk. On June 15th, a humanitarian corridor was opened for civilians to leave the territory of the Azot plant in Severodonetsk. Hundreds of civilians may be taken hostage in bomb shelters in the facility that is still under Ukrainian control. The number of Ukrainian militants in the industrial zone reportedly reaches 2,000 fighters. A quarter of them are foreign mercenaries. After prolonged fighting, Russian-led forces claimed control of Rubovka in the area of Zolotoy. Russian units managed to break through the defense of the 10 Assault Brigade of the AFU in Rubovka and gain a foothold on its outskirts. Retreating Ukrainian units strengthen their defense in Nikolaevka and pull reinforcements there. In the area of Sletrodorsk, fighting continues for Semigoye and Veshina. The Ukrainian group in the Uglegorsk thermal power plant risks being completely surrounded in the coming days. The AFU launched a number of attacks in the Mykolaiv and Kherson directions. Kiev is trying to develop an offensive and achieve any significant success, which is necessary for the Zelensky administration as a symbol of the ability of the Ukrainian army to still conduct offensive operations. So far, no strategic successes have been reached. On June 15th, Russian caliber missiles hit the area of the settlement of Zolovchiv in the Lviv region. As a result, an ammunition depot for foreign weapons transferred to Ukraine by NATO countries, including 155mm M777 howitzers, was destroyed. Among other targets for Russian missiles, there was the Voznesensk military airfield in the Mykolaiv region. Russian strikes destroyed aviation equipment of the Ukrainian air forces. On the morning of June 15th, the AFU attacked the checkpoint in the Russian Kursk region, but could not continue their offensive and retreated. Shelling on civilians in the DPR continues. Only on June 14th, 18 settlements of the Republic were hit by Ukrainian artillery. As a result of the attacks, 2 civilians were killed, 8 others were injured, including a 12-year-old child. Ukrainian militants again fired at Chinobayevka near Kherson. A civilian man and a woman were killed. More civilians were wounded.
So I think that's a pretty useful overview, right? And also I think what's useful about this is just seeing this map, right? Gives you a pretty good sense of where the Russian lines are drawn versus the Ukrainian lines, right? And you're seeing more and more that I think the narrative really is like things have kind of come to a standstill for Ukraine. And this phrase here, where it's Zelensky has not been able to put forward any kind of offensive strategy. And if you can't win offensively, right, if you can't win anywhere offensively, then you're... Yeah, I know, Milo. I know, buddy. If you can't win anywhere offensively, right, you're just being pushed back. I know, right? Thanks, buddy. You got him. You did it. It's again, my position on this is it's not a great position for the workers, right? I think that Putin more or less was drawn into this conflict. I don't think there was much he could have done, frankly. It's always been my position. I don't think there's anything he could have done otherwise. There was so much internal pressure happening within his own country, right? There was so much external pressure coming from the DPR. I really do think that he was facing an ouster if he didn't actually do this, because his own citizens were calling for it. And at the end of the day, like, you've got a far-right group that fomented a coup in Ukraine, shelling ethnic Russians, rather, in the DPR for 8 years, right? It's a shit situation all the way. Let me take a look, bud. Let me take a look. Stock market's fall has wiped out $3 trillion in retirement savings. That's great. SpaceX. Where is that, buddy? Where's that video? I don't know where that is. But yeah, this just gives you a brief oversight of what's going on in the region. Unless something significant happens, like Biden just announced another $1 billion to go to the Ukraine war, but I'm more or less of the opinion that $1 billion is basically just going to weapons contractors, just like the $40 billion did. It was like $40 billion to like weapons contractors, basically. And if something significant doesn't change, right? If there aren't more boots on the ground, if there isn't something more significant, then this is just Russia steadily pushing in towards victory, right? And more Ukrainian troops are, hey Major, how you doing? More and more Ukrainian troops are, it's a build-up to attack Russia itself? You think so, Watson? They did talk about this over here, the Kurds region, right? The UAF offensive could not continue their offensive and retreated. You think that there is like a build-up going on in the back that's going to try to push into Russia? Yeah, interesting prediction. Interesting prediction. Yeah, I've heard they've admitted to not being able to track the weapons they send. They're going to end up in the black market for warlords in and out of Ukraine. Yeah, I think that's probably right, Generation Y Me. I think that the black market is really where a lot of this stuff is going to end up. And like, there was this moment in this film, right, where they know when this shit comes in, right? They know when this shit comes in, and when it comes in, right, they bomb it, right? Here's a weapons depot that NATO gives, right? Here's a bunch of these what, howitzers? Is that what these are? Yeah, howitzers. Just bomb them. Yeah, here, they came in, we bombed them, right? So send as much shit as you want. Send as much shit as you want. So it is going to be a huge boot, and I'll be very interested to, like, my concern is not for this conflict, it's for the next conflict, right? Because all of the seeds for a rising fascism in Ukraine have been set. Like, all of the leftist parties have been banned. There is no more opposition to, like, a far-right party ascending. Like, Zelensky's not going to stay in power forever. And the my concern is not for him, but for the next guy, right? Finland and Sweden joining NATO on a fast track, control the Baltic, UK and US Navy heading towards the Black Sea. So let's get this on the bigger. So everything that follows is speculative, for sure. Because it's not a shoo-in that Sweden and Finland are actually going to join NATO. It's not a shoo-in. Turkey is the one that's really standing in the way of that, because I think Turkey is very much in the position where it does not want to see an escalation, right? It does not want to see an escalation, for sure. Turkey's fairly well aware that if an Turkey's got war going on over here, the Syrian war, the Iraq war, right? Like, it doesn't need a war across the Black Sea, dude. Like, it's bad enough that this is happening across the Black Sea right now. Like, an escalation is bad news for Turkey, and it knows it, right? So, the idea that Sweden and Finland are going to join NATO, and you'll get control the Baltic, get shit going on. So you think that there'll be a push or offensive through the Baltic? Yeah, I mean, this territory here, like Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, these are already NATO members, right? And if Finland and Sweden join in, then you've got like a fairly substantial foothold here. My city's going to go crazy if Finland gets invaded. It's going to be full of Finnish flags on every car and windows. Yeah, I suspect so. Nationalism seizes hold during these periods of time. Now, yeah. North Finland to Romania? Like, there's Romania. Okay.
Just rallies in response. The fascists and the anti-fascists alike found themselves engaged in physical attacks with clubs and rocks. Eventually, shots are fired, and the first fatality of the evening would claim the life of one of the Ukrainian fascists. The Ukrainian fascists and the paramilitaries then burned down the anti-fascist encampment in the Kolikovo Square, leaving the anti-fascists to have to hide in the Odessa House of Trade Unions. Soon enough, the fascists began shooting at the windows and throwing Molotov cocktails inside, and the building was soon engulfed with flames. People were jumping out of the windows to survive, but sadly, some of those who made it out were then beaten to death. The massacre would claim the lives of 48 anti-fascists and socialists in the Soviet hero city, including 17-year-old boy Vadim Papura, who was beaten to death by the Nazis. 74-year-old Svetlana Abakomovich survived the attack, and she believes the fascists may have used chemical weapons. While an investigation was opened up into the event, to this day nobody has been charged for the massacre, despite video evidence of the perpetrators' faces and actions even on YouTube. So less than 2 weeks after the Odessa massacre and the Nazi violence in Mariupol, the eastern cities of Donetsk and Lugansk, together making up the region of Donbass, each held their own referendums on the heels of the fascist attacks. In the months leading up to the referendum, the Maidan government sent Ukrainian troops to attack dissidents of the new government, but to no avail. On May 11, 2014, the day of the Donetsk and Lugansk referendums, the Washington Post conducted its own poll where they found that 94% of voters supported independence. The poll also reported that of those who were not planning on voting, 65% supported independence from Ukraine. In the final result, with 75% of voter turnout, both Donetsk and Lugansk votes came at a majority to secede from Ukraine, and thus were established the Donetsk People's Republic and the Lugansk People's Republic. Its new leaders declared that they will be independent until the fascists in Kiev resign. At the time, Russian President Putin announced that Russia will not be annexing the territories and advocated that the LPR and DPR leaders work towards a peace agreement with the coup government in Kiev.
So this is an organization that Barnabas is involved with. He posts regularly on the Discord or People's School for Marxist-Leninist Studies. Good videos, good people. Right? Lots of good theory in here as well. Right? Lots of good analysis. Lots of good stuff. Here you go. Here you go. Here you go. Yeah, he flat out said he doesn't know much what's going on in Ukraine, but anything that is pro-Russia, it is Russian propaganda. Yeah, I mean, I don't, that's like this, it's this kind of commentary that doesn't make, like, it, that's why I don't really take Zizek very seriously, you know? Like, he said some interesting stuff in regards to, like, gender stuff, but, like, I'm not, like, Zizek doesn't really impress me very much as a commentator, honestly. Like, I never think to myself, boy, I wonder what Zizek has to say about it. But, like, honestly, like, he doesn't know much about what's going on in Ukraine. That's where the comment should have stopped, right? I don't know much about what's going on in Ukraine, but you know, that's where he should have ended. Very simply, there's no shame in that. There's no shame in saying, like, oh, I don't know much about the subject, so I'm not going to comment. But, like, this idea that, like, if it's pro-Russia, it's Russian propaganda. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah, Zizek blowing his nose half the time, picking at his clothing, right? Like, okay. Whatever you say, Zizek. And like, I watched his debate against Peterson, right? And it's just like not, like he didn't like blow my mind. Like he had some like pretty basic talking points. Like that debate was more about Peterson's lack of awareness and inability to understand the subject matter than it was Zizek's like impressiveness or anything. Yeah, Zizek's a stick to film criticism. Well, and when it comes to like concepts about like masculinity, like he has some commentary on the idea of masculinity and femininity. Like, do these things even exist? Are they real? That I found to be a bit interesting, right? But in terms of his like cultural analysis, some of it just like, yeah, slapping around Peterson on Marxism is like taking candy from a baby. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, like, and I don't know. Like, I just find Zizek to be kind of like, I get why people like him, but it's similar to why Peterson is popular, which is that like, if you have a vacuum, like if there's nothing going on, right? Guys like this can seem brilliant, right? A younger version of Rex Murphy, yeah. Defeating postmodernism with facial tics, sniffs, and cocaine. If you wanna get down on the ground, cocaine. She's alright. Cocaine. Yeah, Rex Murphy, man. Seems to me like Rex Murphy's only skill set is that he's memorized the dictionary. That's it. Like, he knows how to write an article. He's got a good turn of phrase, right? But he's not very intelligent. Like, he's pretty low level, frankly. And his analysis is always kind of embarrassing, frankly. Like, I've read through, especially his modern stuff. Like, it's as uninformed as it can get. Like, the video of Zizek and Peterson as Superintendent Chalmers and Skinner was dope, though. Dude, what? Zizek, Peterson, Superintendent Chalmers. What are you talking about, Skinner? What are you talking about? Dude, what are you talking about? Yeah. Dude, I have no idea what you're talking about, and I really want to. Like, I really want to. I really want to know what you're talking about. I'm desperate for it. Nah, I can't find it. In that interview, it had some interesting takes on what is freedom. He talks about in terms of love between personal love versus collective love. Polyev says Justin Trudeau's public safety minister must resign. He's probably right. I mean, you're picking like the lowest possible fruit. Murphy has gone full Fraser Institute coupled with rebel media outrage. Yeah, that's. Oh, it was the first one? Fuck, really? It didn't look like the first one. This one? Video unavailable. Get wrecked. The uploader closed their YouTube account. Get wrecked, everyone. Get completely wrecked. Somebody find it and put it in the Discord. Yeah, oof. Get wrecked. Yeah, no, like, you're right, man. Murphy is just, like, full, like, all you've got to do is ignore the, just ignore, no, not ignore, but all you got to do is just believe implicitly in, like, the white power, the hierarchy, right? And you can just say what you want, right? Because it was rebel media? I don't know, dude. I don't know. Collapsing healthcare system. Canada's healthcare system collapsing all around us. Warns CMA president. Right? The Canadian Medical Association is warning that problems may actually get worse. What's clearly coming is the collapse of the current healthcare system. I don't understand why nurses and doctors are not in the streets. Like, I don't understand it. Like, no one's coming to help you. Like, no one's coming to help you. Yet we're not seeing is political will to take that seriously, because they're trying to privatize the system. Why would they take that seriously? Pressure across the system is dire, with a ballooning surgical queue, ongoing challenges with primary care, emergency rooms being swamped by the growing backlog of patients. There doesn't really appear to be any solutions in the near term, which is really worrying. Yeah, they're trying to privatize the system, right? There's some, definitely not enough. Yeah, that's right. They're small business owners in this country, yeah. If you ask me, this is the biggest problem. I'm just going to keep bringing this up. 52%, right? Only 52%. Official government accounts of events can't be trusted. Only 52%, right? I expect to see this number as high as 70%. Much of the information we receive from news organizations is false. Only 44% agree with that. Again, I expect to see this number as high as 70 to 80%. Like that would be an expectation that I would have, right? And then you see the breakdown. Turns out it's the fucking left wing, right? The liberals in the NDP, right? If you're liberal or NDP, you're far more trusting, i.e. gullible, frankly. Like, and at this stage, it's got to be called gullibility. Like, it's just got to be called gullible. Like, you're oh yeah, the corporate power structure is for sure going to tell me the truth about what's going on in the world. That's for sure the case. Abacus data can't be trusted? What makes you say that, DM? I mean, besides, like, the obvious argument of, like, corporate control and corporate owned. Most of the time, the reason why I still put some stock in these polls is because, in terms of their electoral analysis, it's accurate, right? Because they know if they friggin' protest, people will possibly die. If they leave their hospital short-staffed, yep, that must be torture. Yeah, there's that. There definitely is that, Amanda, for sure. Right? Like, but if the whole thing is coming into a collapse moment, right, if the whole thing is collapsing, like, and in the meantime, while the whole thing is collapsing, who's in charge? A dillhole who wants to privatize it, and is obviously going to. Like, very straightforwardly. Truth bomb. Corporate sector winning the economic recovery lottery. Workers falling behind. This is from the Monitor. Fast facts. Over the past 50 years, Canada has experienced 6 recessions. In the 1974, 1990, and 2008 recessions, workers ended up better off than corporations. In the 1981 and 2020 recessions, corporations had the upper hand. In fact, the corporate profit to GDP ratio in the most recent recovery is higher than any recovery in the past half-century in Canada. In the final months of 2019, corporate profits captured 12.4% of GDP. By the first quarter of 2022, corporate profits had risen to 15.2% of GDP. This unprecedented 2.8-point increase during the pandemic recovery is more than 3 times larger than the next highest recovery of corporate profits in 1981. On the flip side, workers have lost ground in this recovery, losing 0.8 points of GDP 2 years since the recession began. This isn't quite the worst loss following a recession in the last 50 years, which was 0.9 point. I just hate how this is written, 0.9 points. Anyway, in the 1981 recession, but it comes close. What is unprecedented is how much the corporate sector has managed to capture of the gains from the current recovery, despite rising inflation. At the same time, inflation is whittling away at workers' real wages. The net result is a historic realignment of who benefits from economic growth in Canada, shifting away from workers and toward the corporate sector. Unlike recent recessions, the current economic recovery has occurred amid high levels of inflation, something that Canada hasn't seen since the 1980s. Canada's labor market is currently strong and unemployment is low. Average hourly wage gains were 3.3 over the past year, meaning that workers are seeing their wages fall in real terms because of uncharacteristically high inflation, which ran at 6.8 over the same period. Despite the fact that workers' wages have been falling behind inflation, wage demands remain a stubborn mainstay in economists' explanation of inflation. This analysis debunks that myth. Workers' wages have sometimes been a cause for inflation, but corporate profits can too, as well as input prices like gas or supply chain issues. In this case, workers' wages are trailing inflation by a wide margin in most industries. As we'll see below, wages are losing ground on how much economic growth they capture, but wage growth is mentioned twice in the Bank of Canada's most recent analysis of inflation, while profits and the corporate sector are not mentioned at all. This is an important oversight. It's not an oversight, it's purposefully done. Roughly 2/3 of Canada's gross domestic product is made up of workers' compensation or corporate profits. The rest of GDP is comprised of capital write-offs, unincorporated businesses, as well as net production and import taxes. How that 2/3 of GDP is shared between workers and corporations can tell us who benefits from economic recovery following a recession, workers or corporate profits. The first graph shows how workers and corporations fared in the 6 recessions Canada has occurred in the past 50 years. Right? Get fucked. Get fucked. Total compensation. This clock starts 1 quarter before the recession as compared to how things landed 8 quarters, 2 years afterward. Looking back over the past half century, Canada experienced 6 recessions, which are defined as 2 subsequent quarters of negative real GDP. Like, this is just an indictment of capitalism. Literally, like, Canada has experienced 6 recessions in the past 50 years. Like, capitalism fails. It doesn't work. Like, what do you need? Like, what do you fucking need? If we compare how the corporate sector and workers did before the recession, then 2 years after it happened, the picture is mixed. Sometimes workers end up better off and corporations worse off, like in this 1974, 1990, and 2008 recessions. Sometimes it's the reverse. Corporations gain the upper hand, like in 1981 and 2020. Sometimes both workers and corporations see little change 2 years after a recession, like in 2015. What's unique about the most recent recession isn't just that corporations have come out on top, it's by how much. In the final months of 2019, corporate profits captured 12.4% of GDP. By the first quarter of 2022, corporate profits had risen to 15.2% of GDP. This unprecedented 2.8-point increase during the pandemic recovery is more than 3 times larger than the recovery of corporate profits in 1981. Like, just everybody get fucked, right? Everybody get totally fucked. Like, we are heading into a period of neo-feudalism. I don't like... Here, let's read the conclusion. The combination of high inflation accompanying a recovery isn't unprecedented in Canada, but it's been a few decades since it's happened. What is unprecedented is how much of the gains from the current recovery the corporate sector has managed to capture, despite rising inflation, or perhaps because of it. With consumers expecting higher prices, corporations have a once-in-a-generation chance to rapidly raise prices to make up for increased input costs, and to capture an unprecedented proportion of economic growth as profits during this economic recovery. At the same time, the resultant inflation is whittling away at workers' real wages, diminishing their economic recovery. The net result is a historic realignment of who benefits from economic growth in Canada, shifting away from workers and toward corporate profits. Just a failed society, man. Just like a failed society. Like, it's a failed idea, it's a failed ideology, it simply doesn't work, right? And we know that there are superior models. We just know there's superior models. John, want to read an article from George Soros where he's essentially making an argument about dialectic materialism without realizing he's making an argument for it? Sure, bud. Oh, I think I've seen this. Yeah, I've seen this. Like, in the meantime, story from Bosnia, 650 tombstones in World War II anti-fascist partisan cemetery, Mostar, have been destroyed overnight by neo-Nazis. Here it is before. Pretty brazen. Pretty brazen if you ask me. Oh, I might have to, yeah. I don't think I can get access to it, bud. Sorry. Paywalled. Get completely wrecked. 5 proposed protected areas that could help Canada meet its 2030 conservation target. When I see this kind of thing, don't you think that like these 5 conservation areas, they like get made up specifically so conservatives and liberals can come along and destroy it? Right? Don't you feel that's the case? Right? Protection of endangered caribou, western coarse frog habitat urged in Quebec. Like, I just feel like they're pointing these things out specifically so they can come along and destroy it. The video was called Steamed Hams. Dude, we gotta find this video. You guys have got me like so steamed hams. Let's take a look. No, this is the real thing. No. Here, hold on. Steamed hams, Peterson. Here we go.
Dr. Peterson, I made it despite your directions or whatever.
Dr. Zizek, welcome. I hope you're prepared for an unforgettable debate.
Yes, whatever.
Quickly pause it. Try to dodge some algorithm shit.
Oh, ye gods! I only debate college students. But what if I were to quote from the Communist Manifesto and use it to boost my own argument? Oh, delightfully devilish, Jordan. Jordan with his crazy explanations. Slavoj Žižek's gonna need his medication. When he hears Jordan's lame equivocations, he'll be trouble in town tonight.
Jordan!
Dr. Zizek, I was just rehearsing my rebuttals to your possible intros. You know, discourse exercise. Care to join me?
Why is there bullshit leaking out of your argument, Jordan?
No, that isn't bullshit. It's nuance, you know, for the debate we're having on finding happiness in the modern world.
This is good shit, guys. This is good shit.
Dr. Zizek, I've read the Communist Manifesto.
I thought we were discussing finding happiness.
Oh no, I said postmodernism. That's what I call Marxism.
You think postmodernists are Marxists?
Yes, they're taking over the campuses.
Where are the Marxists?
Social sciences department?
I see. Well, I have debated many politically correct college campus liberals and so on, but they are by no means Marxists or whatever.
Oh, not college liberals, it's Jonathan Haidt.
I see. These arguments are quite similar to the ones perpetually debunked during every debate on Marxism.
Oh no, patented Peterson arguments. Old family recipe.
So you claim postmodernism is rebranded Marxism?
Yes.
So you claim this despite the fact that Marxism is a materialist philosophy which postmodernism rejects?
You know, the lobster, the 12 rules for life... excuse me for 1 second.
Of course.
Oh, well, that was wonderful. Good time was had by all. I'm pooped.
Yes, that should be. Good Lord, what is happening in there?
Leftists taking over America?
Leftists taking over America. In this day and age, in this time of day, in this part of the country, localized entirely within the University of Toronto.
Yes.
May I see it?
No. Peterson, the subreddit is on fire! No, Mother, it's just Western values.
Well, Peterson, you eat from the trash can of ideology, but I must say, whatever.
Help! Help!
Dude, that was ridiculously good. Like, that's completely accurate. Like, that's the thing that makes it so good, is it's totally accurate. Just like this moment here, dude, where, like, Peterson is like, this? Who is Heigl? Yeah, dude. Like, I also really like this moment here, where, was it here?
Did Peterson arguments? Oh.
No. I just like the way the animation was.
Similar to the ones perpetually debunked during every debate on Marxism.
Oh.
That right there. Perfect.
No, Patton did Peterson.
Dude, like, yeah, like, look, all Zizek did in that debate is just point out that Peterson doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. And to me, the end of it was when he said, and I'm glad that this guy put it in, like, who are these guys? Like, who are these people you're talking about? Like, who are these leftists that are coming to take over? Like, who are they? Right? Like, and Peterson was basically just like, dar. And then to pick up on the moment when he, like, is literally on his laptop.
Despite your direction.
Anyway, brilliant animation. Yeah, and as for this, you're absolutely right, Watson. Conservation areas for exploitation, brought to you by suburban biomobs who are environmentally conscious. Yeah, that's it. We're gonna make a conservation area, guys. That's gonna solve climate change. It's gonna solve everything. Yeah, it took 3 years after the debates for him to create his list, and essentially had people like Naomi Klein. Did he actually make a list? Jordan Peterson's list of Marxists, I guess. Oh, here you go. Oh no, this is a video. No. I want to see the actual list. Oh yeah, here we go. Once again, embarrassing himself. I made this list public. Well, where's the list, bro? Where's the list? Angela Davis, like, are you a like, are you a postmodern neo-Marxist if you just don't want the world to blow up? Here we go. Kendi, Coates, D'Angelo, Crenshaw, Bell Hooks, Michael Foucault, Naomi Klein. Like, Catherine McKinnon, Butler, Derrida, Michael Foucault. Like, time to recognize that Peterson doesn't really have a grip on what's going on in the culture, right? Like, really, it's time to recognize, like, the Peterson doesn't really have a grasp on what's going on. Wasn't Catherine McKinnon a country singer from Nova Scotia? No, American radical feminist, legal scholar, activist. A long professor of law at University of Michigan Law School. Like, he doesn't even mention actual Marxists, like Richard Wolff, right? I forgot the name of this guy, but there's a professor. Why am I forgetting his name? It's an unusual name, is why I'm messing it, right? And like you'd be better off mentioning people like Noam Chomsky, right? Or Hedges, right? Like this is literally just like I've never seen somebody trying to grasp at straws more, right? And honestly, it just tells you how poorly read Peterson is, right? Like, has Peterson even encountered Chris Hedges, or Parenti, or Chomsky for that matter? I've like literally never heard this guy talk about Chomsky ever, right? Like, does this guy actually know who the leftists in the society actually are? Who, like, it's he's just constantly screaming into this vacuum, right? He's just constantly screaming into this total vacuum. And the idea that you're going to elevate people like Naomi Klein, and incidentally, like, Naomi Klein's, like, pretty sharp, right? Like, Naomi Klein's Disaster Capitalism is it's like a seminal text. Like, the idea that you're pretending as though, but I mean, if you're a climate change denialist like Peterson is, right? I have a soft spot for postmodernism. The people he cites are identity reductionist middle class types. Yeah, Chomsky is an anarchist, so he claims. Yeah, it's he has like it's more than that. It's like a narco syndicalist. Is that what he calls himself? Chomsky I actually find to be really, really good when it comes to commentary on America, right? Chomsky's commentary on internal activity of what's going on domestically in America is amongst the best. Where Chomsky starts to get weak is when he steps outside of the imperial core and starts to observe other nations, right? Like the Soviet Union, China, right? Like, he doesn't really comment very often and at length on these places because I don't think he knows that much about them. And which is why he doesn't comment on them, which is the right thing to do, right? It doesn't do to comment on things you don't know anything about, which is why Chomsky is strong and Peterson is weak. And the when it comes to the analysis of like what's going on in the global south and all of that, it's way better to pay attention to Parenti. Like, Parenti is way, way sharper. Like, the phrase the global south is not of the global south, only the people are poor, right? The countries are rich. They're not underdeveloped, they're overexploited. Love me some postmodern stuff. The critique of Marxism is disappointing, though. Oh, it's also deterministic. Yeah. I don't really go for postmodernism generally because I find it to be... and to be fair, I have not done like a big deep dive into postmodernism. Honestly. Like, I just don't find it to be particularly interesting. I really do think that it's like largely like it exists in an abstract sense alone, right? It doesn't seem to actually ever touch down in a material reality, which is what attracts me to Marxism, that it's focused on a historical and material analysis on what's actually going on, right? And whereas postmodernism seems to exist exclusively in a abstract sense. So I'm like, how useful can this be, really? Yes, Naomi Klein also wrote The Shock Doctrine. Yeah. Noam Chomsky also said about the international politics he doesn't focus on that because he can't change other countries. Yeah, that has always been his position. Yeah. And instead of focusing on what other countries are doing, we should focus on what our country is doing. Which in my view is why he sounds so profound when he talks, because he knows a lot about what's going on in his own country, right? I've never heard postmodernism defined in any coherent way that I didn't forget 5 minutes later. Yeah, that's kind of it. Onward. And I'm just like Peterson thinking that postmodernism is somehow a threat. And he seems incapable of articulating why it's a threat. Like, what's the threat? Like, abstract focuses on language, like the way people talk. Like, it's just... it's the kind of thing that only a person who doesn't have to worry about their own material conditions and doesn't care about the material conditions of others would come up with, right? It's just kind of like spinning your tires, right? And I feel like, didn't Chomsky and Foucault have a debate? I thought they did, if I'm remembering correctly. I think this is the thing. It's been so long ago, Chomsky, yeah. Yes, I've watched this debate, and I remember watching this debate and just being like, not impressed with Foucault at all, and Chomsky, or Foucault, or however you pronounce it. Hold on, there was a thing here that's in 5 seconds. Here we go.
A fundamental element of human nature.
All right. I just seem to remember that Chomsky pointed out something like contradictory within Foucault's argument, and I'm sucking at it. I'm sucking at explaining it. I watched it when I was like 19, and I was like, "Yep, Chomsky got him." Right? And since then, I've just been like, who cares? Like, who cares about this? Right? Like, it doesn't seem to matter at all. The Buckley-Chomsky debate was spectacular. Well, that wasn't really much of a debate, frankly. That was just Chomsky informing Buckley of what was going on in the world. Really. I remember that debate and just being like, Buckley just didn't seem to know what was going on most of the time. Speaking of not knowing what's going on, guys, did you know that Antarctica's Doomsday Glacier is hemorrhaging ice faster than in the past 5,500 years? Not to be a downer. Not to be a downer. Antarctica's so-called Doomsday Glacier is losing ice at its fastest rate in 5,500 years, raising concerns about the ice sheet's future and the possibility of catastrophic sea level rise caused by the frozen continent's melting ice. The finding comes from a study of prehistoric sea deposits found on the shores surrounding the Doomsday Thwaites Glacier and the neighboring Pine Island Glacier, both located on the West Antarctic ice sheet. The chilling news: Antarctica's glacial melt, driven by climate change, is advancing faster than ever before in recorded history. Researchers have reported June 9th in the journal Nature Geoscience. These current elevated rates of ice melting may signal that those vital arteries from the heart of the West Antarctic ice sheet have been ruptured, leading to accelerating flow into the ocean that is potentially disastrous for future global sea level in a warming world. Co-author Dylan Rood, an earth scientist at Imperial College London, said in a statement. "Is it too late to stop the bleeding?" Rood asked. As one of Antarctica's fastest melting glaciers, Thwaites has earned the nickname Doomsday Glacier. Since the 1980s, Thwaites has lost an estimated 595 billion tons of ice, contributing to a 4% rise in global sea levels. Thwaites and its northern neighbor, the Pine Island Glacier, cover enormous expanses. Thwaites has a surface area of about 74,130 square miles, making it nearly as big as Great Britain, and Pine Island 62,660 square miles. As the sea-facing ends of the glaciers are positioned above a bowl-like ocean basin, both glaciers are exposed on their undersides to currents of warm, dense, salty water. This warm water isn't just melting the glaciers where they extend into the Amundsen Sea, but it is also whittling away at them from underneath, underpinning them from their main anchoring points located to the north. Additionally, this melt from below weakens the glaciers and makes them more prone to surface fractures, which could spread across the entire ice sheet and potentially cause it to shatter. If the entirety of the West Antarctic ice sheet were to break up and melt into the sea, it would elevate global sea levels by approximately 11 feet. To compare the glacier's melt rates today with those of the distant past, Scientists looked for clues on Antarctic beaches, close to where the glaciers terminated at the ocean. Ice weighs down land, so at some of that frozen weight melted and drained into the sea toward the end of the last ice age, around 11,500 years ago, the land rebounded to reveal shorelines that were previously hidden beneath the waves. By measuring the ages and heights of nearly 24 shorelines, the scientists hoped to discover how quickly ice disappeared from the land before advancing again. The researchers estimated the ages of the shorelines by collecting ancient shells and tiny fragments of penguin bones, before analyzing the ancient biomatter with radiocarbon dating. This method identifies the age of organic material by measuring the amount of carbon-14, a radioactive carbon isotope, or variant with a different number of neutrons, which is found everywhere on Earth and is easily absorbed by plants and animals. When animals die, they stop accumulating carbon-14 in their tissues, and the amount they've already absorbed begins to decay. The half-life of carbon-14, or the time it takes for half of it to decay, is 5,730 years, and scientists can pinpoint the ages of animals that died thousands of years ago by measuring quantities of undecayed carbon-14 in the remains. After dating penguin bones and shells from more than 20 different shorelines, the scientists found that the oldest and highest beach began to form roughly 5,500 years ago. From that moment, in time until about 30 years ago, ice loss exposed the shoreline at a rate of about 0.14 inches each year, the researchers reported, but over the past 3 decades, the rate of shoreline advance has skyrocketed, up to 1.6 inches per year. Although these vulnerable glaciers were relatively stable during the past few millennia, their current rate of retreat is accelerating, and already raising global sea levels, Rude said. What this means for the future of Antarctica's glaciers and ice sheets and vulnerable coastlines around the globe is unclear. The researchers' findings, while alarming, don't address how many times the glaciers may have retreated and re-advanced across recorded history. The scientists hope to figure this out by drilling through the ice to sample rock or the landmass beneath it, which could show if the current rate of melt is reversible, or if the glaciers have truly passed a point of no return. And sea level rising map. Always fun to do. I like this one. This is a good one. So if the sea levels go up 3 meters, which is the prediction, right? So you're looking at basically the end of Louisiana, right? Basically the end of Louisiana. Pretty significant flooding. Pretty significant flooding throughout. Oops, that can't be right. Wouldn't that be crazy? What? Yeah, but you'll get no Wi-Fi, right? Incoming, Florida man. Yeah. The places that really eat it, if you ask me, is actually China. Right? Like you take a look at, I believe that's Guangzhou. And of course, all along the coast. Right? Like, major flooding throughout China. Really, really easy to see why China has built a bunch of empty cities, right? Because they're really... What about all the new beachfront property? Yeah. I also like to point this out to kind of take an edge off of things, right? It is easy to get into kind of a doomeristic mindset, but even at 10 feet, right? Even at 10 feet, it's not the end of the world, right? It sucks, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to defend it, but like even if we set this at 400 meters, like something outrageous, right? Like, we're certainly going to experience like devastation. Russia is basically gone, right? Lots of Europe basically gone. You're looking at a redrawing, but that's at 400 meters. Like, that's pretty intense. Like, go to 100 meters. Or let's go to something like 50 meters. Right? Like, at 50 meters, you're still looking at basically coastal devastation. You have some interesting inlets and things like this happening at this point. But seeing as the call is for about a 3-meter raise, I think that keeping it here is realistic. I feel like here in Canada, the places that are really going to get hurt is Vancouver, right? Like, Vancouver is really going to experience lots and lots and lots and lots of flooding. But it's not like the end times. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to be like, it's going to be bad. Everyone's going to be dealing with it all at once. I think that's the big thing. To like, it's going to be chaos. It's going to be total chaos. Which is why I keep saying, like, prepare for it. Like, prepare for what's coming. It is going to be chaos. It's going to be happening everywhere all at once. Right? Yeah, nuclear war will get us before climate. Don't worry, folks. Thanks, Tinker. Thanks for keeping things positive, bud. Thanks for keeping the upbeat view, right? Right. As you can see, there's definitely going to be stuff like if you're living near Charleston here, right? And Miami, for sure, Miami is going to eat it, like, for sure. Down in this region, nowhere in the United States is going to eat it worse than Louisiana, though. For sure, Louisiana. Like, look at it. Just look at it. It's toast. Just totally toast. Like, Louisiana basically ceases to exist. Like, New Orleans is sinking, babe, and I don't want to swim, right? Like, for sure. The power grid will get us before the nuclear war. I like it. You guys are keeping things upbeat, right? You guys are keeping things upbeat. Did you hear about the trouble that Sri Lanka is going to have? Why is Sri Lanka going to have trouble because of the war in Ukraine? Sri Lanka's way down here, right? And you can see, like, India's going to face some problems, definitely. Like, there's just every country, like, but I mean, come on, right? Like, you got your like, this area is totally screwed, dude. Get out of this. Anyway. Yeah, Louisiana, the only southern city that still has character? Not for long. Not for long. My favorite part about the coming climate catastrophe is all the people who are going to blame it on the gays. That's going to be the best part. You're going to be like, oh, if only it wasn't for all these homosexuals, this would have never happened. Right? Just fucking absurd, dumb nonsense like that. Bad news. Bad news. Right? This section right up in here is really gonna eat it, right? Like, Deutschland. Good old Germany. Yeah. Well, Germany has a long history of keeping shit together, right? Germany has a long history of when crisis hits, of acting rationally, right? They'll be fine. They'll be totally fine. Yeah, the Netherlands seems to be doing okay. I mean, Denmark's definitely going to eat something along the coast for sure. Hey Vince, how you doing, bud? Sunspots will fry the power grids, just wait. I'm here for it, babe. I'm here for it. Let's go. How's it going? I'm so worried about inflation. Oh yeah. I think lots of people are worried about inflation, man. Lots of people are worried about inflation. Or, as I like to call it, price gouging. Right? Like, I don't buy for a minute that what we're experiencing is just straight up, like, inflation, right? Like, there was going to be an amount of inflation given the amount of money that got printed, right? And the fact that they're refusing to actually tax that money away, right? If you wanted to actually deflate the economy, you would tax money away, right? That's how you do it. But video. How long is it?
In Sri Lanka.
It's pretty long. Pretty long. Looks good, though.
Sri Lanka, a tropical island nation just a few miles southeast of India, children never get a snow day. Neither do they have to contend
Let's see if
with
we can do the
earthquake-
zipping. I love me some graphs.
And for the sake of simplicity,
Love me some
and if
graphs.
that sound would go overseas.
Sri Lanka remittances. Poor Sri Lanka, man. I know that there is like a communist. Here's some commodity prices. That's fun. Isn't that fun? That's good news for Sri Lanka. Right? Get completely wrecked. Wheat import dependency. Oh, I get it now. Like, Sri Lanka is like really, really dependent on Ukrainian wheat. Look at this. Seychelles is like completely dependent on wheat imports from Ukraine, which are going to be down, right? Even if wheat imports are down like 10%, it's going to be a disaster for places, right? Fertilizer exports, Russia, China, Canada, US, Belarus. Yeah. Sri Lanka's gonna get totally fucked. Yeah, dude, there's gonna be places that are absolutely gonna get wrecked over this kind of stuff. Pakistani rupee, check this out. It was already only like 0.0065. Wah, wah, wah. Buy the dip. Everybody go buy some Pakistani rupees. The number can only go up. The number can only go up. Price index. Look at those prices, man. Just jacking right up. Jacking right up. Yeah. I feel like the seeds of revolution are being planted in Sri Lanka, dude. I feel like the seeds of revolution are being planted in Sri Lanka. I really don't see liberals winning even a minority next election with the Emergencies Act, just bad policies the past 2 years. Liberals really have lost their mandate. Yeah, if the election was held today, even with the Conservatives not having a leader, the Conservatives would win. And I feel like they're going to put Skippy up, and Skippy's going to do really well with the populace. I think the populace is going to be like, yeah, let's give these Conservatives a chance. What's going on with Patrick Brown and his fraud investigation? I thought that ended. He'll probably end up running for Brampton Mayor again. Yeah, I think that's right. We're going to go through a second Bronze Age collapse. Future people, if they're even alive, will not have any historical record of this time. Yeah, we'll see about that. We'll see about that, man. Like, it's wild to think about, right? Like, all of our information is digitized and tied to the idea that we should constantly have electricity. But are we going to constantly have electricity? Who's to say? Nearly half of Canadian working women would rather quit than return to the office full-time, survey says. Survey says, get fucked. Like, there's no reason to get people back to work, right? It's all just literally dick wagging. It's like, Oh, this is a good one. So, the narrative surrounding Bill C-11, right, is that the Liberal MPs really rushed pushing this legislation through, right? They actually stopped debate on it in the House in order to push it through, along with their little junior partners, the NDP. But it looks like the Senate, right? The Senate is actually taking its time and isn't going to be pressured to push the legislation through, right? Senators have signaled they will not be pressured to speed up consideration of the bill, claiming they have thwarted government ploys to push it through the upper house. The online streaming bill, which government rushed through the Commons Heritage Committee on Tuesday, is now subject to a pre-study by the Senate Committee on Transport and Communications. The Senate Committee's chair, Conservative Senator Leo Hausakos, accused the government of planning to ram this legislation through without proper parliamentary scrutiny. He said the government had tried to force the Senate to undertake an unnecessary pre-study, hoping to then claim that further study wouldn't be necessary. Thanks to the official opposition in the Senate and a few other senators from other groups and caucuses, those plans have been stymied, Hosakos said. It's been made quite clear to the Trudeau government that there will be a diligent and thorough study of this flawed legislation, one that will be done transparently and will include witnesses whose voices and concerns were silenced in the other place. Heritage Minister Pablo Rodriguez said he has been meeting with and listening to senators for months, and they want a full study of this bill. I totally respect their role to do this important work with the time they need to get it done, Rodriguez said. So, we're going to see the Senate tear this shit apart? Which, I've got to tell you, like, initially, I looked at Bill C-11, and I thought, I was fairly benign on it. Because I thought, I looked at it as something of just an extension of the Broadcasting Act into the online space, that it wasn't a violation of the Charter of Rights and Freedom. And but I've been listening to other YouTubers and other people who are more entrenched and more established than I am, and their concerns seem valid. That they're concerned that it's going to result in a less accessible YouTube and a less accessible social media outlet for content creators. And so I think it's important that we listen, especially to well-established YouTube voices. And I'm glad to see that the Senate is taking the position that it's going to pull this thing apart. Because at this stage in the game, I don't know what this thing is going to do. Right? And for someone like myself, who's trying to actually build a YouTube community and build a YouTube channel, thank you all for being here. Like, share, subscribe, give me some money. Like, what's happening right now seems okay. And the big question that a lot of YouTubers are asking is, why is this legislation necessary? Who's asking for this legislation? Why is it important that we push this legislation through? What is it going to do? Who is it for? What does it achieve? And I kind of find myself asking those questions as well. Because I think the worst thing that could happen for my channel would be if this legislation meant that my channel doesn't get seen outside of Canada. Right? Like, if the international community just simply stops being able to see my channel because it's suddenly just for Canadians. Right? And would that be a violation of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms? Right? I would argue yes. That that is a form of censorship. You're censoring who gets to see my content. But that might very well be what this bill does. Right? Yeah, the destruction of the 400 climate change programs. Yeah, honestly, it scares the living hell out of me to have a conservative in power. As much as I hate to say this, I'd rather hating a liberal than have a conservative. Yeah, I mean, the climate change denial, right? I mean, not that it really matters. Like, the liberals haven't really been acting as though they give a shit about the environment in any serious ways. They banned straws, you guys. They got the paper straws in. They did it. Yet the NDP still support this bill. Yep. Wonder if the NDP will ever do anything that the liberals won't tell them. NDP equals liberals with better PR. The party is ruined forever. I mean, in my view, the only way the NDP actually come back from this is if they actually start talking about dismantling capitalism. It's the only thing that I'll take seriously anymore from them. Like, I don't see any reason to vote NDP. I don't believe that you'll ever successfully push the NDP to the left. I don't think that'll ever happen. So, I mean, I shouldn't say that. Like, if it could very well be possible that the NDP gets taken over from the inside, right? That could very well happen. But I know I'm voting communist, right? The fall of the NDP demonstrate how capitalism will co-opt every movement and turn it away from its original purpose, given enough time, which is why social democracy always fails in the end, yeah. NDP is only the lesser evil, but still very corporate party. Well, and I mean, we have no reason to buy in. Like, why should we believe them as much as we believe the liberals? Like, why should we believe, like, they keep touting and pounding the pulpit on this, like, dental care thing, and I'm like, okay, where is it? Right? I'm sure that what they're going to do is they're going to leave the legislation until the very last possible second to push it through right before an election, and then when they lose, the conservatives will stop it, right? Like, that's the plan, obviously. And so I just like, I feel like the NDPers I'm talking to are just embarrassing. Like, just cluelessly embarrassing. Yeah, $20 minimum wage by 2026. Yeah, I'm sure. The NDP is always going to go this way. Liberal reformism is the least reactionary form of bourgeoisie politics. Yep, all politics is shifting rightward, for sure. The Communist Party of Canada is the only way. I mean, certainly if you're focusing on electoral politics. Sea level rise in England will put 200,000 homes at risk by 2050. Right? Like, the amount of disaster that's, like, we are going to need, and it's going to be completely necessary, right? We're going to need a war economy. Like, any political organization that's saying anything other than this simply cannot be trusted. Like, we need a war economy. We're facing, like, an enormous crisis on a scale that we have. Like, you've got to go back to, like, the Bible to find these sorts of disasters, right? And, like, what are we even talking about minimum wage increases for, right? Like, the collapse of the economy, the collapse of the system, like, it's going to be huge. It's going to be massive. Who gives a shit what your wage is, right? Like, we're going to have to straight up do rationing. Like, straight up. We're going to have to do it. There's not going to be an alternative. And the quicker we set about building the infrastructure for that, the better off we're going to be, right? And but of course, if these neoliberals are in charge, they're just going to fucking abandon us, right? Like, that's the whole goal. It's a process of extraction and abandonment that they're going through, and it's going to be very serious. Meanwhile, Xi and Putin, they're holding a phone call, vow mutual support amid global turbulence. I think an important relationship for both Russia and China to have, right? When you don't have many friends in the world, you know, you want to hang on to that. I wonder where Mongolia lands in all of this. I think Mongolia is just happy to be chilled out, left alone. Freeland says Canada's economic reputation was at risk, which prompted the Emergencies Act. Get fucked, right? Like, get totally fucked. What a total fraud this woman is. Wives of soldiers in Putin's army take to the street, demand answers. Wives of soldiers fighting Vladimir Putin's war in Donbass region have taken to the streets, demanding actions over their husbands' whereabouts. I mean, you expect these sorts of things to occur. Yeah, a Russo-Chinese alliance, what a shocker, yeah. Well, and I mean, they've basically pushed... I think the biggest blunder that the United States committed to in all of this was not allowing Russia into NATO. Not allowing Russia into NATO has got to be, without a doubt, like, the biggest fuck up of all of them. Because basically the second they said to Russia, no, you can't be part of NATO, Russia goes, oh shit, like, I gotta start finding other allegiances. I gotta start finding other connections, because these guys are not letting me in to their alliance, to their military alliance. And it's like, why not? Why not allow Russia into that? Why not allow Russia to become part of NATO? One would think that that's the entire trajectory of Russia, right? That the whole point of collapsing the Soviet Union and the whole point of building the whole point of getting Western capital in there, the whole point of getting a more westernized Russia would be to get them into some kind of alliance, like a NATO alliance, right? To get them more integrated into the Western system, right? Like, take a look at the map, man. Like, if Russia gets into NATO, it's basically all of this becomes like a singular sort of entity, right? Why wouldn't you want this? It seems incredible to me that the West would deny Russia's entrance into NATO. Yep, they never explicitly stated they can't be in NATO. They simply never gave them an answer. Yeah, Western bigotry was their downfall. I think that that's probably right. Like, what else is there? You know, what else is there? What other answer can you provide? You know? That at the end of the day, it's just like, no, we don't want the Asiatic hordes in our, you know, white alliance. I just can't think of anything, like, what else can you have? You know? And it just seems to me to be an enormous strategic blunder, because now you're going up against Russia, and Russia is forced really to find allegiances with other countries, China, India, Saudi Arabia. When the PPC types blocked the Ambassador Bridge, did you notice the rapid change in the conservative rhetoric over the Freedom Convoy? Yeah. The ruling class donors got the point across. Yeah, I think that's right. That the support for the Freedom Convoy really evaporated in conservative circles when they blocked that bridge. That it became like pandering, but no actual support. They weren't going to fight for the Freedom Convoy. The part that drives me nuts about NATO is the narrative that it was a defense organization that turns aggressive after the fall of the USSR. Yeah, and NATO was imperialist from the start. Of course it was. Right? Did you see the video where the US outright said they lie about them joining NATO as a way to deter against Russia? Yeah. Like, I don't think they ever had any... Like, they were never going to actually allow Ukraine into NATO. I think that's probably pretty much the case. But instead of actually like saying that and just being open about it and trying to ease tensions, like, this is the thing that's so fucking weird about all of this, is that it just seems so easy to avoid, right? It just seems so easy for this war to have been avoided. Like, literally don't fund right-wing groups in Ukraine. Literally just say, yeah, Ukraine's going to be independent, we're never going to let them into NATO. Just say these things. Assuage the fears coming out of Moscow. Don't fucking coup the government in Ukraine, right? Like, straight out, just and I'm still sitting here, kind of scratching my head, going, what the fuck is this all about? And near as I can tell, it's the same logic that follows the destruction of the Middle East. That if we destroy the Middle East, China and Russia will never be able to develop it. So as long as this is destroyed, right, it ostensibly weakens Russia and China's position, right? And I feel like it's the same logic here. As long as we've got Russia and Ukraine fighting each other, and it's destroying itself, then they can never ally and develop, right? And as long as we foment discord, right, then they'll never be able to actually rejoin one another, right? That Ukraine will never become another Belarus, where Belarus is ostensibly a part of Russia, right? That the alliance is so close under Lukashenko, right? It seems to me to be their entire strategy and their entire logical, that the entire ethos of their thinking. There's nothing else that makes any damn sense at all. Like, why do this? Like, who's it benefiting? Right? It only benefits America in this abstract sort of sense of like, oh, Russia and Ukraine can't ally and they can't actually form ranks, and so that there's this like constant turmoil. So once again, you see the United States is essentially a chaotic, evil nation who are the Nazis on the world stage, right? All they're doing is fomenting discord. That's all they're doing. And they can't possibly perceive or understand or have a worldview that says, let's not destroy this place. Let's build up our own country. Let's build up our own selves. Let's create a stronger America and through the creating a stronger America, and create trade agreements, right? Create a stronger America through peace, right? You can't think that way if you're America, right? If you're a fucking neo-Nazi on the world stage, you can't think that way, right? You got to go around and blow every place up. Seems to be how America operates. Shocking to see. If all of that were true, defense spending would have dropped after the fall of the USSR, yeah? You might as well ask water to run uphill, yeah. Well, especially when it comes to the European nations, right? Like, Trump keeps saying that he wants America to pull out of NATO, make the Europeans defend themselves, right? That why are we spending all this money defending Europe when they should spend that money themselves to defend themselves? And like, you're sitting there going, yeah, because Europe has a long history of peaceful relations internally, right? Yeah, the relations between France and the United Kingdom, Spain, Italy, Germany, Austria, Poland, right? Perfectly peaceful, right? These places have constantly been in a total place of peace. I actually feel like the United States, I tend to agree with voices like John Mearsheimer who say, yeah, if the United States pulls out of NATO, it probably means that Europe will have a war with itself, because that's what they do, right? That's how they talk, right? They don't create peace with one another and try to create federated bodies in order to maintain peaceful relations. They like war, and they like war with each other. And of course, that's the thing, right? Well, the outward imperialism eventually goes inward anyway, right? Whether it's Trump or whether it's the next guy, that's what's happening in the United States. That all of this imperialism that has happened throughout the world turns inward. That's what always happens. And like the police of the nation are already militarized. They're already prepared for it. They're already armed with drones and robot dogs and tasers and military-grade hardware and tanks and jeeps and shit. Like, they're ready for it. So, the United States is going to, like, what the United States has been doing across the rest of the world, it's going to bring home. Fairly straightforwardly. We got to get ready for it. Numbers show racist Great Replacement conspiracy theory has found its audience in Canada. Timothy Caulfield has spent the pandemic battling bunk science and lies. Where's the exact numbers here? University of Alberta professor points to climate in which communities of believers have become more entrenched online and in which more mainstream politicians seem intent on co-opting conspiracy theories for their purposes. Research conducted by Abacus Data asked 1,500 Canadians about their stance on conspiracy theories that have become popular. It found nearly 40% of respondents said they believe in the Great Replacement theory. The fiction linked to the massacre of 10 black Americans last month in Buffalo. 40% is pretty high. More than half of the survey respondents said official government statements can't be trusted. 44% said they believe a secret cabal of elites are controlling world events. I mean, obviously. Like, I don't think there's a secret cabal of elites that are controlling world events. I think that there are billionaires who are siphoning capital away and talk to one another about world events, right? They're not controlling world events. They're just like agreeing with one another on how things should unfold, right? About 37% said they believe there's a group of people in this country who are trying to replace native-born Canadians with immigrants who agree with their political view. Like, we are in a real downward spiral. In response to blatantly false theories, such as Bill Gates has been using microchips to track people and affect their behavior, 13% said they agree. That's sort of where I expect that to be. But another 21% said it's possible, or they're not sure. The data shows the mainstreaming conspiracy theories in Canada. This isn't, I don't trust the current Canadian government because they have too many ties with industry. These are conspiracy theories that are pretty elaborate and far-fetched and aren't even mildly plausible from a rational perspective. I mean, come on. They're a group of shadowy elites. Like, yeah. Like, the WEF alone fuels this conspiracy theory, for sure. Like, I don't believe that there's a shadowy group of elites controlling world events, but certainly there's a group of billionaires who are responding to world events, right? And they respond for their own benefit. Wow. Right? I thought native-born Canadians were literal natives. Watson, you funny guy. You know what they're saying. Conspiracy theories are kind of like narratives that help you think about your problems. It's a way of puzzling through real-world difficulties. Yeah. Yeah. You think about all these unethical things that people have done to people, and you're like, well, that did happen. So this is where the probable emerges, right? So when you hear about a powerful person doing harm, it sits there in the little nest of the probable. The structure of conspiracy theories are really based on scapegoating. They're based upon identifying and externalizing other who is threatening your in-group. The in-group is your circle with whom you relate to and identify. Over the pandemic, those groups largely formed online. Oh yeah. You have politicians in Canada making it seem legitimate. Are we going to see more hate crimes because of legitimization of these conspiracy theories? I think that is an absolutely legitimate concern. Yeah, bud. Like, what happens when you betray your populace, abandon them completely, and leave them to fend for themselves? Right? Like, if you say to the populace, do it yourself, stand up straight with your shoulders back, we're going to cut all your funding, we're going to make sure that you just live in you're going to own nothing and you're going to like it, here's the great reset that we keep talking about, right? Like, this is what you end up with, right? This is what you end up with. And if you don't want this kind of behavior in your society, then you should be supporting strong institutions that actually take care of the populace, ensure that the material concerns of the populace are taken care of, namely shelter and housing and education. But if you don't have any of those things, and if you convince large segments of the populace that the government trying to do those sorts of things is bad or evil, right? That's communism, right? Well, this is what you get. Straight up. Will we see a January 6th type riot in Ottawa because of the fed up populace? Yeah, oh yeah. Like, the Freedom Convoy was an echo of that, right? Like, the Freedom Convoy was an echo of that. Like, all of this, like, let's go to the White House and take it over kind of stuff is just beginning, right? Like, it's never been the case in human history where a populace has done that once and then been like, okay, that's fine, right? They're going to do it again and again and again, right? Like, this is what we are seeing when we are seeing a collapsing empire and a collapsing society. And one of them will be fairly successful, I wager. Yeah, we did Freedom Convoy, yeah. Freedom from what? For who? To do what? To be determined, right? To be determined. But it does tell you something, right? The Freedom Convoy was actually quite revealing in many ways, right? Because it does show you that these guys are fed up. Like, these guys are fed up and they're mad and people are upset. And perhaps they lack the ability to precisely articulate that frustration. Perhaps they lack the ability to do so as well as someone like myself can do. But that doesn't change the fact that they're willing to take action, right? That they're willing to actually do something, right? Yeah, fascist riots tend to be bungled the first few times until they're successful. That's right. That's right. They're fine with the populace engaging in these conspiracies. It disperses political energy among those on the lower rungs of society. Well, until it finally, like, I think the thing they're concerned about is, first of all, the Great Replacement theory is that's pretty significant. But also this here, 44% they believe a secret cabal of elites are controlling world events. Well, the last thing, like if you are the billionaire class, if you are the guys going to Davos, right, the last thing you want is the populace being like, hey, these guys are the problem. Right? That's the absolute last thing you want. Poilievre would introduce Free Speech Act to repeal liberal internet regulation laws. So, jumping on hold of that, right? Repeal Bill C-11. So, the Conservatives taking a fairly strong position against Bill C-11, which I actually think will be quite popular. Right? Now, we'll see what happens with the Senate cracking it on open. It actually showed the class nature of the police. The Freedom Convoy was treated with kid gloves. Had that been an actual left-wing protest, the cops would have cracked skulls within 48 hours. Yeah. U.S. court upholds terrorism verdict against eco-activist Jessica Resnick for sabotage in Dakota Access Pipeline. For those who don't know, Jessica Resnick is one of the great martyrs of the cause. Nice. Thanks for sharing this. A Catholic worker movement and climate activist from Ottawa. On June 29th, she was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison for a series of attacks on the Dakota Access Pipeline. A true hero of the movement. Somebody who I genuinely think has put it all in. Right? She sees what's happening on the world stage. She understands, and she sacrificed 8 years of her life in order to fight back. And God bless her heart. I'm not surprised to see that the court, especially this U.S. court, has upheld that verdict. Yeah, we need class awareness. Well, I mean, it would be great if we had both. Too often, race awareness and gender issues are used as a shield to deflect away from class issues. And I feel like that's no longer functioning or working for the Liberals and the NDP the way that it used to. The thing I find so funny about the right wing, they keep talking about the globalists who fail to realize the very system they support creates this problem in the first place. Yet when you point them out, these people are just the capitalists. That socialists have been saying that response. Yeah, stop spreading communist propaganda, right? We simply don't have true capitalism. Yeah, that's the trap, right? Like Einstein said that insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result, right? That the solution of the right, like the diagnosis is correct, which is why they're gaining in popularity, because people are saying like, that's right, that these globalists are causing us problems and the billionaires are causing us problems, right? So but the solution is just do more capitalism harder. Right? Who is Jessica Resnick? She just as I read here. I just read it. Right? A Catholic worker. Is a climate activist from Iowa. She was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison for a series of attacks on the Dakota Access Pipeline. She and one other person whose name is eluding me right at this moment. Basically attempted to destroy the Dakota Access Pipeline, right? And of course gets captured. She blockaded a road construction workers were using to bore a hole underneath the Mississippi River. She was arrested later that day, spent a night in jail. She blocked the road again, spent another night in jail. On the third day, she set up camp on adjoining land where others joined her in the following weeks. Burned a section of the pipeline at a workers outside Newell, Iowa, punching holes in coffee cans, filling them with motor oil, placing them inside of cabs of machinery after being lit. She held press conferences which they announced they had sabotaged the pipeline over a number of years. They used cutting torches and gasoline-soaked lead to damage or destroy other sections of the pipeline. It is estimated their actions cost $6 million in damage, and by stopping 30 million barrels of oil. She was indicted by a grand jury, 9 federal criminal charges, including setting 11 fires. After her indictment, she expressed regret that she did not do more to try to stop the pipeline. She accepted a plea deal where she pled guilty. She was sentenced to 8 years and ordered to pay $3.2 million in restitution, which she'll never pay. An absolute hero. An absolute hero. Like, here I am on my YouTube channel trying to tell people, trying to inform the world, trying to do stuff, and here's somebody who really put it on the line, who really went out there and really did some damage. $6 million worth of damage, right? If all of us started to do the same thing, they couldn't stop us. I think about it all the time, man. I think about her a lot. I think about her a lot. Oh, Ruby Montoya. Yeah, that's right. Like, it will likely come down to this. And I'm going to make sure, for as long as I live, and as long as I can be heard, that people know and understand that Jessica Nesic is a hero. An absolute hero. And the people who fight against her are evil demons. Yeah. These people simply cannot realize the revolutionary nature of the system, or evolutionary nature of the system. They think can be de-evolved back into a national form. Yeah, they don't even realize the reactionary nature of the nation state. Yeah, sort of a John Brown character of the environmental movement. That's a good way of putting it, Watson. That is a good way of putting it. Right? Just an absolute hero fighting against an unjust system. We musteth finish what John Brown hath started. Yeah. Still work to be done. Okay, guys. We've reached the end of it. Me and Milo, we're going to remind you, as always, you are a quantum being walking around in quantum energy. The billionaire class is spending hundreds of billions of dollars in the vain hope that you'll never realize it. You'll just stay the good little commodity they need you to be. Revolt. Rebel. Repent. Good luck. We're going to need it.